right, excellent. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Wherever you are tonight, this afternoon, this morning, you're certainly not alone. I've heard my producer tell me that we've got over 250 people who have signed up for this conference today, and 250 people who are willing to contribute, listen in, and share as much as they can as far as extractive industries is concerned. Just want to give quick salutation. Glorita Biji from Angola, Yusuf Al-Ahmoud from Bahrain, Amanda Santos from Brazil, Michael Bitt from Canada, Deputy Director Zhang from China, and Samuel from Fiji. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with great pleasure that AFROSAI-E and the Netherlands Court of Auditors welcomes you, your audit team, all the members to this virtual closing conference of the Performance Audit Extractive Industries Project funded by the Netherlands Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Now, the conference includes the leadership of the partners in this program, that is SAI Kenya, SAI Tanzania, SAI Mozambique, AFROSAI-E, and the NCA. The objective of the conference is to capture and share lessons learned from our regional project among the partners and with other SAIs interested in conducting audits in the petroleum sector. Now, the mining sector has been identified by most African countries, including Kenya, Mozambique, and Tanzania, as a potential catalyst for economic development. And there is a determined effort to develop the sector and to make it more attractive to investors. In 2020 mining season alone, according to the International Trade Center's trade map, East African countries exported minerals worth more than $1 billion. Now, together, Kenya, Mozambique, and Tanzania, they possess some of the region's most significant mineral ores of rutile, zircon, gold, and soda ash. And most recently, the game has moved for them. The game has moved to oil and gas. Now, mining companies around the world are looking for growth opportunities. And Africa, with this wealth of minerals, it has become a choice for many, with over 1,800 mining projects in various stages of development or operation across the mother continent. Miners, investors, governments, now they all strive to overcome a host of challenges to become successful in their endeavors. As AFROSAI-E, in mining, we consider what success looks like to all stakeholders, both animate and inanimate. As AFROSAI-E, it is our experience that transparency and accountability through the National Audit Office sets any mining project or operation up for a successful outcome. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, it is with great pleasure that AFROSAI-E and the Netherlands Court of Audit welcomes you, your audit team members, to this virtual closing conference of the Performance Audit on Extractive Industries Project, funded by the Netherlands Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Now, just to kick us off, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to do probably one of the most beautiful and very important thing that we in Africa do. That is to set protocol and set everything right from the onset, putting our best foot forward. And we put our best foot forward by having an official opening. And for this, I'm going to be joined by the CEO of AFROSAI-E, the Vice President of the NCA, and the Ambassador of the Kingdom of the Netherlands to Tanzania. Your Excellencies, please indulge us. Macy?
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, Edmund. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you all to this closing conference. Edmund has spoken a lot about it. He has also shared the objectives, and I believe that our lead and host of this project, of this conference, will also give us the details on the objectives of this project. And I would like to thank the government of Netherlands for partnering with us in this very important project. Extractive industries is a very, very important area in our region and for our continent, as Edmund has already said. I must say I am excited about this project, and especially that we have come to a point where we can share experiences and results about these projects. This is what we do best in AFROSAI-E, that is sharing experiences, inspiring others to join in projects that add value. And just for the background, Edmund has indicated the size that were involved in this project. Just for the background, this project started in 2019 as a collaborative audit, as Edmund has mentioned. And when we started this project, I shared the following being the pillar of this project. And what I shared is what we have done and have achieved in AFROSAI-E, which we believed was way too little, and we need to achieve even more. I shared the objectives in the extractive industries in AFROSAI-E, which is to spread the knowledge of extractive industry sector in the AFROSAI-E region towards deliberate performance of relevant, efficient, and effective audits in line with the AFROSAI standards. I shared our approach, which is research, learn, and share. And that is exactly what this project delivered. I shared the work that we had done in the region, and we continued to do a lot of work ever since. I shared the impact that we had had, and today you will hear about the impact that this project has had and what we will still achieve in the future through our strategic partnerships, because we believe that we are stronger with our strategic partnerships. And I shared about the activities that we were having then, including this project that we were starting. And we are still going to have even more projects. Edmund also mentioned that this area of extractive industries has received a lot of attention in our region and internationally. And we believe that strong and effective supreme audit institutions can contribute to better and more transparent oversight of extractive industries to help ensure that governments manage natural resources in the best interest of the public. There are several initiatives to strengthen the SAI's ability to fulfill these functions. And as I mentioned, we continuously review and strengthen these initiatives. And gladly enough, this project with the Netherlands Court of Audit is one of those projects. As a result, consistency of these audits, including follow-ups on implementation of recommendations, is key for the SAIs to perform. I would like to repeat what we always, or what is always said and what we always say in AFROSAI-E, and we've said this over and over again. The extractive industries are generating vast amounts of revenue in Africa, but only a fraction is plowed back into the benefits of its citizens. The question is, how can SAIs contribute to good governance and sustainable development of their countries, thereby improving the lives of the citizens? That's what we stand for as SAIs. Ladies and gentlemen, this is just the beginning of the SAIs demonstrating the value and benefits of SAIs to its citizens. Let us sit back and listen and contribute to the discussions of today so that together we can hold hands and move forward and benefit our citizens. Thank you very much. Back to you, Edmund.
Well, thank you so much, Macy. I mean, those reflections are indeed very particular and very important for the African region and globally as we go forward. And Macy is one person who has really taken over the AFROSAI-E vision, and she's pushing it with regards to extractive industries and how we can work with our size. Now, through the smart partnerships that you've been working on, the Netherlands Court of Auditors, of course, is one key partner of AFROSAI-E. And we certainly want to hear from the Vice President, Mr. Elwood, if it can be possible for my producer to bring him online so that we can hear his reflections in the way forward.
Thank you, and good morning to everybody. And welcome to all attendants present from all over the world. I think most of us are working from home right now. And that is also the situation in which I am working right now, although the situation in the Netherlands is getting better quickly, fortunately. And probably most of you joining today are also working from home. And obviously that is quite a sad situation, but at the same time, there's also an upside. And the upside is that most of you probably would not have been able to attend should we have organized a classic face-to-face meeting in a conference room like originally intended as part of this closing project of the Netherlands Court of Audit. And we are very grateful that you are all here, that you are all present today. And we really hope that this conference will help you and that we can all learn a lot today. And our regional partnership on performance auditing in the oil and gas industry is coming to an end this month. But we started this project already in 2019. And we did that because we believe that supreme audit institutions can play a critical role in ensuring that governments of oil and gas rich nations should secure their share of the revenues from oil and gas. And today's workshop, today's conference, is really about the positive role that supreme audit institutions can play in improving the government's oversight of the oil and gas sector. Good government oversight is very important because of the complexity, first reason, of the contracts that governments sign with oil and gas companies. Secondly, also because of the complicated global corporate arrangements in which oil and gas companies operate. And thirdly, but not lastly, the significant amounts of money, and in the end public money as well, being involved. And strong government oversight minimizes the risk that governments receive less revenues from the oil and gas sector than it should receive. And I firmly believe that we as Supreme Audit Institution have an important role to play to make sure the government's oversight is strong and effective. And to realize this ambition, we focused on improving the quality of system-oriented performance audits in the oil and gas industry, and to stimulate capacity building and knowledge distribution in the region. And along the way, we also strengthened our own audit competency at the Netherlands Court of Audit. And as a part of this project, we worked together with the Supreme Audit Institutions of Kenya, Mozambique, and Tanzania. And we worked together on 6 audit reports. And the first ones are ready, and they will be made public in the very near future. And several workshops have also been held with the 6 teams in South Africa, Mozambique, and Tanzania. And in anticipation of the publication of the reports, it can be concluded that governments have no effective systems in place to monitor costs, resulting in a significant risk for government future revenues from the oil and gas projects. And you will hear a lot more on this and the recommendations to the governments from the audit teams presenting today. Thank you very much for being present here today, and I hope we all can learn a lot from the different teams, from the experience, and this is all, of course, in the interest that countries can really maximize their interest from the oil and gas industry, so that citizens can benefit from natural resources. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you so much, Mr. Vice President. The man who's working from home has given us one of the warmest welcoming today, and that is highly appreciable. And we do hope for things to get better as we go into the future every day and every second. Now, to have a program like this running, it takes a lot of money and investment. And the Kingdom of the Netherlands has come to the party. Please, may we give time to His Excellency, the Ambassador to the Kingdom of the Netherlands to Tanzania, to just give us his reflections on what has been going on. Thank you, Your Excellency.
Thank you very much, Edmund, and a warm welcome to all colleagues, all friends assisting today at this important meeting. It's a real pleasure for me to be here, representing the Netherlands government that has provided the funding for this activity. And I very much enjoyed the introductions given by Maïsi and by Ewout. And Ewout, I specifically enjoyed the picture of this little girl with an ice cream in the corner of your screen, because that is, I think, symbolic for what we are trying to do here, and that is to ensure that the benefits of extractive industries go to the future generations. And not only in the form of ice cream, but also in the form of investments. So thank you for putting that picture up. The Netherlands is pleased to be associated and supporting this project because we feel that there is a big role to play for the public sector in managing the extractive industries. And as Maïsi said, the purpose of that role of the public sector is to optimize the contribution of that sector to the well-being of the nation. As Maïsi said, to plow back the benefits of the extractives to citizens. And Ewout also mentioned that there are many, many challenges to that effect. And he mentioned a very specific one, which is the topic of the discussion today, is related to oversight of the public sector on cost recovery, and that there is still a lot to be done to enhance that oversight. But beyond that, there are also many, many other challenges that need to be tackled. If you look at the extractive industries, then words come to mind which are not always positive, in the sense that mention is made of extractives as a resource curse, leading to Dutch disease. Companies working in the sector are accused of tax evasion, base erosion, profit shifting, etc. So there are a lot of challenges, and as mentioned by the previous speakers, national audit offices have a very special role to ensure that the public sector has better oversight on what is happening in the extractive industry. And supreme audit institutions have a very specific role in supporting the public sector by providing evidence on effectiveness and efficiency of the public sector in the oversight. And as Edmond said, also providing support to contributing to transparency and accountability in the sector. On behalf of the Netherlands government, I'd like to say that we're very happy to have been able to play a role in supporting you. We have been able to strengthen the role of AFROSAI-E in providing support to its members by, for example, working on an online course to audit, how to audit the government's oil and gas contract management. So that's an important role that AFROSAI is playing, not only giving the opportunity for exchange of experiences and learning from each other, but also providing these kind of training courses. And we're also very happy that we have been able to provide support to the supreme audit institutions in Kenya, in Mozambique and Tanzania. And I'd like to issue a special word of appreciation to the role of the Netherlands Court of Auditors, represented here by Marike and by Ewout, in providing this support. because with the funding that we give, we cannot provide that kind of support. That support is materialized in the exchange between professionals, the peer-to-peer exchanges. And fortunately, the Netherlands Court of Auditors has been able to provide the staff to provide these peer-to-peer learning opportunities. I would say that there is still a lot to learn. And for me, looking at it from the Tanzanian perspective, from a foreign country in Tanzania, I think the question is, have governments, specifically the Mozambican and Tanzanian governments, now found the right balance for incentivizing private investment in the extraction of natural resources, and particularly of natural gas? Since this project started in 2015, much has happened. I think especially Mozambique came a long way because there a number of projects have come to the final investment decision stage. Tanzania is still on its way to reach that benchmark. But the recent announcements by the government of Tanzania are a clear indication of the wish to make a rapid progress also in Tanzania. Both countries face serious questions in how to manage the natural resources. And we hope that the support that we are providing to supreme audit institutions in these countries can help governments piece together pieces of the puzzle so that in the end, the governments will be able to do what I outlined as the main objective, and that is to plow back the benefits of extractives to the citizens. And SAIs have a very important role to make sure that that role is being implemented effectively, efficiently, and transparently. So once again, let me reiterate that we've been very happy to be supporting this activity. And on behalf of the Netherlands government, Netherlands Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we do wish you good deliberations and continue the professional exchange and learning as has been started by this project. Asante sana.
Wow, thank you so much, Your Excellency. Always insightful. Always on time with just the right words to encourage us. Asante sana, he says. And really, we want to pick it up with that spirit and that momentum. One thing that you're all wondering is what really has transpired in these audits. It's good that you're here, because today we're going to find out. We're going to dissect and bisect the knowledge that is going to be delivered by the SAIs that performed this collaborative audit. Highly talked about. I've got the chance and the privilege to see some of the work that they were doing, and I think they really have some wonderful things to share with you today. So now, without further ado, let's get into the game. The wine, the glass of wisdom has been poured. Now we might as well drink it. And to start us off, we're going to have a discussion from the Auditor General of Kenya, Madam Nancy Gitungu.
Yes, good morning or good evening. I doubt there's anyone who is logging in the evening. It is my pleasure to join you in this meeting. I apologize that I logged in a little bit late. I have another meeting ongoing and I have to multitask. From the onset, I want to say that this experience that the SAI of Kenya has gone through in the audit of in the oil and gas industry project has been an eye-opener and has been very, very beneficial to us. As you may all be aware, Kenya traditionally has been largely dependent in agriculture, in tourism, and other economic sectors. And oil and gas has always been a back burner, despite prospecting going on for very many years, over 50 years. So when Kenya basically announced that we had found oil that was commercially viable, of course, it brought in a lot of questions. It brought in a lot of just wondering, were we ready? Not just as a country on how to handle this area, but also as a supreme audit institution on how we go about auditing this area. So this project came at the right time, as the extractive industries now in this country is being identified as a key driver in our economy under our national development plan. And I would want from the onset to thank the Netherlands Court of Audit and the AFROSAI-E for considering SAI Kenya for this project and for mentoring our staff to undertake the audits in oil and gas. I believe we can say that we are now building a team of experts, skills and knowledge in that area that in time will spread to other auditors as the case may be. Now, we had never carried out a performance audit to assess how the oil and gas industry contributes to the economic growth of our country. And how, of course, by extension, it improves the quality of life and livelihoods of our citizens. And that is the ultimate in oil and gas as we tackle the challenges and as we learn from those who've been going through this before. And we've carried out 2 audits through the AFROSAI-E and the NSC initiative. A parallel audit with SAI Mozambique and Tanzania on the preparedness of the State Department for Petroleum to monitor costs in the petroleum sector. And then a local audit on the management of local employment and training provisions in the production sharing contracts. And I have my team logged in and they will give more insight into this area. Now, currently, those 2 reports are on my desk for review. I should have released them by now, but unfortunately, there's been other competing issues that have come up that speak to carrying out very, very critical transversal audits by the office. Speaking of COVID-related expenditure, that has really taken quite a lot of our resources for a while. And a new thing, I'm not sure whether other SAIs in the region face this kind of situation, where the government contracts for goods, for services, and receives these goods and services, and then we have problems with payments. And we've accumulated what is we are calling pending bills or liabilities. And this has become so critical that it has necessitated that I also send quite a lot of resources to do a nationwide audit on pending bills. But nevertheless, these reports will be issued in due course and probably within the next 2 or 3 weeks. The audits have been beneficial to my office as an advisory service to both government and parliament. They will inform legal, regulatory, and policy improvements in the oil and gas industry. My staff have developed the requisite skills and competencies to conduct future performance audits in the extractive industries. I must say that the skills and knowledge gained will also be shared with other performance auditors to apply in audit in other sectors. And indeed, we have created partnerships and networks with auditors from participating countries, which will enhance cooperation and knowledge sharing in future audits. So from the onset, I would like to say that I am very appreciative for this opportunity for SAI Kenya to have participated in this project from the onset. And I know this will not be the end, even if the program or the project is coming to a close, this will not be the end of partnerships and support. We are ready to participate in other projects by the AFROSAI-E and the NCA that we bring on board to improve in this area. My team, as I said, have been heavily involved in this, and they may want later, as the program for this meeting proceeds, they will communicate or they will give their insights and their experiences and the areas that we have found very, very critical during our audits. I thank you.
Here we go. Thank you so much, Auditor General Gatugu, for taking us through that. Look, I hope my producer is busy communicating with you folks on how you can get your questions in there so that we can really interrogate the auditors who have put themselves on the line and said, look at the work that we have done. We really want to talk about it. And like we said when we started, this really is a conversation. So let's have a conversation. Please just let them know how they're going to be asking questions. But before you go away, Auditor General Gatungu, quick question for me. I know you've been articulating your vision for the SAI since you took over. Now, having seen this work in the extractive industries done by your team, where does extractive industries sit in your strategy going forward as a SAI?
Thank you. Thank you, Edmond, for that question. Extractive industries being an area that we are referring to as an emerging area for audit. It sits in my strategy as one of the areas we need to start to continue building capacity and to give attention to so that we do work that is relevant or that resonates to that sectors of economy that are growing or that are new in Kenya. And it's part of what we're exploring under our innovative unit. We have a professionalization and innovative unit where they're actually doing research on areas that we have not covered before as audit, areas that we have not issued reports before, or areas as a SAI that we may have to admit that we do not comprehensively understand. And those are the areas we need to concentrate on in building capacity so that we do all round or whole of government approach to audit, including looking at the areas of the economy that we will soon be relying more on as agriculture or tourism gets affected by other, shall we say, for example, what has just happened to us with tourism due to the pandemic. So as a SAI, we have to keep abreast with emerging areas, sectors of the economy, any discoveries, and ensure that we build capacity and we do audits that can provide insights for government.
Wow. Thank you so much, AG. Very clear and very insightful vision on extractive industries. I look forward to see how AFROSAI-E can actually assist seeing you realize that vision going forward. Now, I'm not sure, am I going to hear from Mr. Daniel Kamuyu Mukuria today on the work that he has done? Is that going to happen today?
You definitely will.
Absolutely. So please, Daniel, if you're online, get us into the game, please.
Thank you, Edmond. Thank you, panelists, and thank you, attendees, for attending this conference. As my AG has mentioned, this has been a learning curve for us as a SAI, but we've taken it head on, and so far we can say we have built technical capacities, or we'll continue building our technical capacities in this area. So I'm going to present the first, what we call the parallel audit that the AG mentioned, and my colleague Millicent will later on present the lessons learned. Next slide, please, Millicent. Yes, so we did one parallel audit with SAI Mozambique and SAI Tanzania. And this audit, next slide, please. This audit was beneficial to us because of the sharing of knowledge between the three countries, and even between the team that was conducting this audit together with our management. So I'll start off. Our topic was on preparedness of the State Department of Petroleum to monitor costs in the petroleum sector. The AG has just mentioned that this is a very important area that is an emerging area for this country, having discovered commercially, what we call commercially viable oils in the year 2012. The country was previously, we were in exploration phases of the value chain, and currently they are in development stage. So as we are aware, companies that discover this oil, sometimes they charge what we call costs that are associated with the explorations at a later stages when they start on extractions. So we had, I would say again, this audit was made possible through the collaboration with NCA. They provided capable facilitators for this, Coop and Marikia, who are very insightful for this, agreeing on some of the issues. Sometimes we disagreed on issues, but ultimately we came up to what we considered to be country specific, because Mozambique was, Tanzania was more basically looking at gas. Kenya, you're looking at oils. And I think Mozambique also had both oil and gas. So we asked ourselves as a country and agreed on which audit questions we are going to look at when we are auditing the State Department of Petroleum. When I say State Department, this is a ministry that is in charge of petroleum in the country. By then it was a State Department, and now it has become a full-fledged ministry. So we looked at these 3 audit questions, and we asked ourselves, to what extent had the State Department for Petroleum put in place systems to review and approve work programs, budgets, and progress reports prepared and submitted by international oil companies? Why were we looking at this? This was because whenever they prepare work programs, which are supposed to be approved by the ministry, they prepare budgets, they prepare progress reports of what they have done. So we wanted to look at whether the ministry had put in those systems in place that would allow them to be sure of what these oil companies were doing at whatever period of time. Sometimes they are supposed to make quarterly reports of the progress. And if there's a change in budget, these budgets are supposed to be approved by the minister. So that is why we consider this to be very important in terms of the ministry approving and ensuring that what had been approved is what is actually going on in the fields. Our second audit question was, to what extent had the State Department for Petroleum put systems in place to ensure review and approval of recoverable costs claims from the international oil companies? Again, this was very critical because
Am I the only one? All right. Am I losing you, Dan? What's going on? Daniel is gone. Let's give him a few seconds to get up and get back online. And those who are in Kenya, please help him out. We really want to hear what he had to say. He was really discussing some very important things. He was just taking us through the methods and methodologies that they went through, especially how they were coming up with their subject matter on what to discuss. I'm seeing the slides are back, but still he is not back online. So ladies and gentlemen, like I said, this really has to be a discussion. I'm really looking forward to your questions, to see them coming through, and how they can open up the ideology that we're trying to have here going forward. How can we improve transparency and accountability in the mining sector, in the petroleum sector, through the audits from the audit offices? Daniel is down, but is he down and out? Let's give him a chance to come back. Is he going to come back?
Sorry about that, Ed and colleagues. You know, we are scattered all over the country because of this special climate. And Daniel is probably in a place that is raining heavily now, but hopefully we'll be able to get on. But nevertheless, I think you can see what Daniel was presenting. If you want to move on to the next presenter and come back to Daniel, or is he back?
I'm back. Yes,
oh,
I'm back.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, AG.
Oh, sorry for that. I think I had a technical issue, and I'm back. Thank you, AG, for standing brief. So I was saying that when we look at the second audit question, we were saying that it is very critical for the country to ensure that the costs that are claimed by the international oil companies are costs that have been audited and agreed upon between the two countries, because ultimately the shareable oil is what is the oils that have been extracted are shared between the country and the oil companies. And lastly, we asked ourselves what systems had the State Department for Petroleum put in place to coordinate with the Kenya Revenue Authority on tax-related cost claims. Why this was, again, we thought this was critical, was because Kenya Revenue Authority is our tax authority in the country, and they are supposed, together with the ministry, they are supposed to ensure that whatever tax are to be paid by the oil companies are paid. Again, we wanted to ensure that, or look to it, that we don't have many audits by the ministry, by the KRA, so they can have a coordinated approach towards ensuring that what is due to the country from the oil companies is actually received. So those are our audit questions. We'll move on, please. This was our audit criteria. We used the petroleum, that is the legal framework, the Petroleum Exploration and Development Act, that was revised edition of 2012. I would say that this was the old act that was in place, but I would say that we have a new act, the Petroleum Act of 2015, but because our scope was before the enactment of this act, we agreed we look at the old act, but look at the issues that have been rectified in the new act, especially issues to do with the issues to do with legal framework, monitoring. There's a new body that's supposed to do the monitoring, so that the ministry is just left with the policy issues. Our second criteria was the production sharing contracts, or the PSCs, in the act. This is an extract from the act. We looked at the two blocks. The two blocks, that is 10BB and 13T, were the blocks that had commercially viable oils. So Tullow Oil, which is the company that had discovered these oils, had discovered the oils in block 10BB and 13T. So that's the way we had that great interest in ensuring that the contracts assigned were being implemented. And we looked at, lastly, we looked at the best practices in monitoring operations under the contracts. We looked at countries that had discovered oil earlier than us, so that we could understand the practice that they were undertaking. Okay, next, please. Yes, these are our methods of data collection and analysis. I mentioned earlier we had classroom sessions between the teams, the three teams, participating countries of AFROSAI-E, Tanzania, and Mozambique. We had our teams, and of course the team from NCA. So apart from the brainstorming sessions, we also had documentary review sessions, looking at the governing legislations, the PSCs, correspondences, and all that, whatever important correspondences and operations that are related to oil and gas. We conducted interviews with the staff of the ministry. We conducted interviews with the staff from Kenya Revenue Authority. And so this information, we collaborated this information to ensure that there was synergy between the ministry, between KRA, and other stakeholders that are involved in the value chain. Lastly, we did data analysis, which is very critical. We had data that we can consider to be confidential because of the nature of the contracts, but I would say that we were able to access all the data and information that was required. The country, having moved again from exploration to extraction, means that the ministry itself is still building capacity, and we are able to interact well with the staff at the ministry, the experts in the ministry. They provided all the data and information, and we are able to access the PSCs that are signed. So we would say that we didn't have a problem with data analysis. We move on, please. Yes, as the AG mentioned, we have done the reports. The reviews are being conducted, and they are at advanced stage of review. And so, as she mentioned, we'll share with the countries, with AFROSAI and NCA, once the report has been published. And so I would say for now, we have reached my, that's my presentation for now. Yes, so thank you very much. Edmund and Tim, I take it back to you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Daniel. You really, really redeemed yourself. Sorry about the network glitch. But yeah, the questions are coming, and one of the first questions that is coming for you there is, please, can you articulate the key success factors to performing such an audit successfully? I mean, it is very clear, Auditor General Gutungu did come out clear that this is an emerging area for you, for the SAI. What did you do to make sure it succeeds?
Might be, I would say that first is the cooperation that we received from the office, management office, and our office management. The other one is from the ministry. As I mentioned, previous to the old act, everything was being done at the ministry. So all the technical staff are at the ministry. They were doing the monitoring, they were doing the approvals, and we were able to access and gather all that information. Secondly is on the cooperation we had with the NCA. We had experts that were brought in by NCA, who was very insightful in, he has a lot of experience in oil and gas. So I would say that it's the cooperation that we received, the experts' advice that we had, and also that we were able to get even access to the oil company through the ministry. So it was not just the ministry itself, but we were able even to go out to the field, to the ministry, to the oil extracting company. So I would say there was no that clause of confidentiality. Of course, we had to sign that it's a confidential information, but we were able to get that information. Yes.
Wow. Excellent. I mean, you did mention the issue of benchmarking. So there's a question that is coming out for you there. They said you mentioned benchmarking. Who did you benchmark against? Can you name them? Can you call them out and let the whole world know?
Okay, for the interest of might be, you know, the oil and gas, as we mentioned, is a bit confidential per se, but I would say we received the expert from NCA, who has a lot of experience in the African countries, and we were able to get nearly all the PSCs that have been done by other African countries, without mentioning specific names. But we were able to receive all that information, even the documentation per se. He said it's available. There is a way that they are available online, but we are not able to get them. But he was able to get them.
Excellent. Well, some things you can say and some things you cannot say, just like all of us, isn't it?
Sure. But,
look, I've got two more questions for you before we move on. The first question is coming from Shewishi Raymond. And Shewishi, you are saying, what areas on your assessment were challenging and how did you overcome them? Can't have been easy.
The first, I would say the first issue was on getting data and information from the oil companies, because you know that the nature of the oil and gas is that it's a bit confidential. So we had to go through the ministry to receive that information, which we did. The other issue was on, receiving the cost claims. When you talk of cost claims, it becomes a bit, is an emerging area that we may not be able to get all the information that we would require. But I would say ultimately we were able to get that information. But being our first audit in oil and gas, I would accept that we had a few challenges here and there, but not challenges that, you see now, the advantage we had the NCA facilitators, and where there was some issues, they have been in that game for longer than us. Mozambique has been there longer than us. So we had that kind of interactions with the team. So we were doing a teamwork, and as I mentioned, we had brainstorming sessions. So where there was some doubts, we were able to clear them together. Yes, but I would say there were challenges being our first audit.
Excellent.
Yes.
Very good processes you had in place. Look, Ubolikile Kopano has decided to set the cat amongst the pigeons, so to say. They are coming up with a very tough question because they're actually challenging your risk assessment, man. They're saying, what motivated you to start your audit with cost-related matters, since one would have thought that maybe it would be better to audit and ensuring sustainability of the industry rather than what you did?
Oh, that's good. That's a good question. I would agree. But you'd imagine that the ambassador mentioned about the Dutch effect. We talked of, you remember those issues that come up in mind, where the natural resources don't necessarily benefit the host countries. I would say that the sustainability aspect may be covered in an environmental audit, might be to some extent. But I would say that what came into mind is that, first of all, we wanted to ensure that there are systems in place that have been put in place to ensure that whatever costs are incurred by these companies, and they are going to claim them later, we have systems in place. Because I mentioned about the shareable oil. There is a percentage of oil companies to recoup their costs, and we have now what is shareable. So if we don't benefit as a country, because there was a lot of expectations, you can imagine managing expectations of citizens, that excitement of the country. So I would say it might be, it came up so because of the nature of what might be historically most of the other countries, especially in Africa, have not been able to benefit so much from oil and gas. So our natural resources for that matter. So might be our rationale of thinking was that we were thinking of the benefits might be earlier than sustainability, but as this was our first audit, so that's a very good audit topic that is coming up with, which we may think of taking up later and very soon.
Excellent.
But that's, I would
well
agree,
done, Daniel.
that's a good question, yes. Yeah.
Well done, Daniel. So you've hit two birds with one stone. You've managed to justify and defend your risk assessment results, and at the same time, you've picked up a new audit topic to pursue in the future. Well done. Look,
in the near future. Thank you.
You can take a rest. Do you have anyone from Kenya to talk to us today, or should we go on to the next? Are you fine, Daniel?
Yeah, I don't know how you have approached it, but we had somebody from Lessons Learned from these audits.
Is it? Let's hear them out.
Yes.
Who is coming on board?
She's coming up, Millicent, please.
Millicent. Take it away, Millicent.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. My name is Millicent, and I'll be presenting the lessons learned in conducting performance audit in oil and gas sector. So I will share my slide.
Is it okay?
Okay. I'm not able to share from my side. I think the slides were shared. Is it possible to share from your side?
Yeah, we will share from our side. I've just been told by my producer that you actually been given a special slot just for you to come a little bit later. So right now you can sit back and watch and listen to the next player. I think it's AFROSAI of Mozambique. So is it okay with you, Millicent?
It's okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right, my apologies there. Let's move on to the next SAI. That is the SAI of Mozambique. And from there, we want to listen to the Judge Chancellor of Mozambique, Mr. Amilcar Mujova Ubisi. Mr. Ubisi, are you online now? The Judge Chancellor is getting ready.
Estou em linha, sim. Muito bom dia.
Bom
Bom dia
dia.
a todos. Eu estou em representação da veneranda presidente do Tribunal Administrativo, a doutora Lúcia do Amaral. Começo por agradecer esta oportunidade e vou falar especificamente sobre o papel do Tribunal Administrativo de Moçambique. Estou a falar da SAI de Moçambique na fiscalização da indústria extrativa. Para dizer que falar da indústria extrativa em Moçambique requer que olhemos um pouco para trás e, ao fazer isso, verificamos que já antes de 1904, estou a falar de 1904, que o ser humano já sentia o cheiro de hidrocarbonetos no território que hoje é Moçambique. Já nessa altura começavam as pesquisas de hidrocarbonetos neste país. As empresas estrangeiras começaram, na verdade, a fluir e a fazer os estudos nas bacias sedimentares de Moçambique, onde a Gulf Oil descobriu no campo de gás de Pande, em 1961, uma quantidade razoável de gás, e também na bacia nos campos de Busse, em 1962, onde também foram descobertas quantidades consideráveis. Para não falar de Temane, em 1967, onde também foram descobertas algumas quantidades de gás. Assim, Moçambique, por essas alturas, já contava com reservas provadas, estou a falar de reservas provadas, de mais de 4 trilhões de pés cúbicos. Como sabem, as coisas dessa altura até agora mudaram bastante com a entrada da bacia do Rovuma neste jogo. Com a entrada da bacia do Rovuma, Moçambique passou dos 4 trilhões de metros cúbicos, de pés cúbicos, para 170 trilhões de pés cúbicos de gás. Isso elevou Moçambique para o mapa do mundo, colocando este país nas 4 primeiras posições em termos de reservas naturais. Evidentemente que celebramos com alegria essas descobertas, mas, como sabem, diz o ditado que onde numa casa o dinheiro entra pela porta principal, a felicidade salta pela janela e vai embora. Muitas vezes, ao celebrarmos essas descobertas, temos que, simultaneamente, estar preocupados sobre eventuais consequências negativas. E isso passa, necessariamente, pela atividade do controle. Porque, na verdade, por muito que seja o dinheiro, se ele não tem um controle eficaz, não vai ser útil. Daí, reconhecermos a importância do papel da AFROSAI de Moçambique no contexto histórico do desenvolvimento deste país. Porque entendemos que estamos numa fase histórica muito importante, onde o país não pode fazer o take-off do desenvolvimento nacional. Falhar este comboio será extremamente difícil apanhar o próximo comboio, que não sabemos quando é que virá. Nessa perspectiva, a AFROSAI de Moçambique preparou-se, com o apoio dos parceiros, não é, de cooperação, preparou-se no sentido de começar a olhar para este setor das indústrias extrativas, com vista a auditar e trazer as constatações da real situação do que se passa. Foi nesse sentido que, em 2015, o Tribunal Administrativo fez uma auditoria ao processo de arrecadação dos royalties do gás natural. E, como sabemos, nessa altura já estava-se a explorar o gás natural de Pande. E o país tem um contrato com a Sasol, onde temos um pipeline que transporta o gás para a África do Sul. Parte desse gás, em espécie, é pago sob forma de royalty ao governo de Moçambique. E o tribunal esteve interessado em perceber até que ponto este processo estava a decorrer dentro das normas que estavam contratualmente previstas. Como devem imaginar, certamente houve muitas constatações, porque parte-se do princípio de que receber gás natural é diferente de receber dinheiro vivo, não é? Quando é dinheiro vivo, nós sabemos que vai para o tesouro público. Mas, quando é em espécie, nós muitas vezes ficamos sem saber onde guardar, se temos recipientes suficientes para guardar e como gerir todo esse processo. Em 2016, o Tribunal Administrativo constatou que estava-se a abrir o 5º concurso de concessão de áreas de pesquisa no país. E nessa conformidade, o tribunal fez uma auditoria a este 5º concurso para perceber o nível de organização, o grau de transparência e todo o que estava relacionado com esse processo, com vista a garantir que todos os intervenientes pudessem participar em pé de igualdade. Obviamente que houve constatações e recomendações que foram levadas às entidades competentes para a sua decisão. Em 2017, também nos preocupamos em continuar a realizar auditorias. E dessa feita, fizemos auditoria ao controle dos custos recuperáveis. Como já foi dito por aqueles que me antecederam, as empresas fazem vários investimentos para se conseguir, digamos assim, trazer este recurso natural que desde o princípio da humanidade praticamente está lá debaixo da terra, trazê-lo para fora e torná-lo útil para o ser humano. E isso requer avultar dos investimentos. É claro que as empresas fazem os seus investimentos e declaram quanto é que, na verdade, estão a investir. Cabe aos países, cabe aos governos terem capacidade para certificar se aquilo que as empresas estão a declarar é real ou então tem algum grau de imperfeição. Porque, como sabemos, nesse processo todo, não estamos em nenhuma igreja, não estamos em nenhuma religião. Isto é negócio, e negócio tem regras. Nele ganha quem tem mais capacidade. E, por conseguinte, essa auditoria que o tribunal realizou constatou também, com alguma preocupação, o nível relativamente atrasado das instituições de controle nessa área, com vista a seguir a par e passo e certificar, sobretudo, aquilo que é as declarações das empresas. Só a falar das instituições reguladoras. Nessa perspectiva, o tribunal depois enviou todas as suas constatações ao Parlamento, enviou ao governo e, obviamente, às instituições reguladoras com recomendações muito precisas. A outra auditoria que o tribunal fez foi em relação ao carvão natural, ao carvão mineral, digo. Como sabem, Moçambique também é detentora de enormes reservas de carvão natural. Nós temos realizado, através das empresas envolvidas, exportações de carvão natural. Foi preciso ir verificar se o royalty que estava previsto no contrato estava a ser pago e em que medida isso estava a ser processado. Como devem imaginar, existem imensas dificuldades. Quando se audita as entidades reguladoras, tem que se passar desde as entidades do governo às empresas transportadoras, às autoridades tributárias e todas essas entidades para certificar e aferir até que ponto e qual é especificamente a quantidade de carvão que é exportada. E não é difícil encontrar números diferentes. É muito fácil encontrar um número diferente aqui, um número diferente acolá, mesmo em relação ao gás natural. A quantidade que sai do poço, do furo, muitas vezes é diferente da quantidade que chega ao destino e é declarada. E é preciso certificar se, de fato, essa diferença está dentro do desvio padrão aceitável ou não. A outra auditoria que o tribunal fez foi em relação à contribuição de 2,75% que a lei prevê que das receitas das indústrias extrativas seja para o benefício das comunidades locais. Estou a dizer que a lei moçambicana prevê que do local onde se exploram os recursos, 2,75% da receita total fica na comunidade. Na verdade, ela não fica lá. Ela vai para o tesouro público, mas retorna para a comunidade. Ora, isto, em algum momento, pode representar recursos avultados para uma comunidade pequena que muitas vezes nunca viu esse dinheiro de uma vez. E, portanto, mais do que levar dinheiro para lá, é preciso certificar se esse dinheiro chega lá em boas condições, se chega lá nos termos previstos na lei e o que é feito. Porque podem existir problemas que têm a ver, por exemplo, com a própria definição do que é uma comunidade local. Quem é a comunidade local? Quem é que recebe, na verdade, o dinheiro? Se o administrador local não for devidamente treinado, quando consultar a sua conta bancária e ver que tem tanto dinheiro de uma vez, ele vai comprar a viatura que lhe faz falta, vai construir a casa dele porque não está em condições, e as 2 por 3, a comunidade não sentirá o benefício final. Portanto, é necessário que se cumpra a lei nessa perspectiva. Dizer que, como eu estava a dizer, não é? Com esses resultados das auditorias, nós levamos ao conhecimento do Parlamento, através do nosso relatório sobre a Conta Geral do Governo, onde temos um capítulo especial que anualmente reportamos sobre os nossos achados em relação às auditorias que realizamos. Ora, o Parlamento, perante estas constatações todas, insta, através de uma resolução parlamentar, o governo a cumprir aquilo que são as recomendações do Tribunal Administrativo. E nessa perspectiva, na verdade, tem acontecido que anualmente o Parlamento acolhe e aprova as nossas recomendações. Moçambique entende que as auditorias às indústrias extrativas são de uma importância transcendental. Porque, como eu dizia no princípio, o dinheiro, muitas vezes, em vez de ser uma bênção, pode ser uma maldição. É necessário que os recursos que estão previstos nos contratos sejam devidamente arrecadados. Nos nossos países, e não só em Moçambique, temos um problema, o problema da corrupção. E a corrupção, na verdade, é um cancro que enferma os nossos países. O papel das SAIs pode ajudar a minimizar esta questão. A atuação das instituições reguladoras também ajuda, porque nós, por mais que os nossos países ainda não estejam devidamente preparados, não temos como adiar a resolução dos problemas dos nossos povos, porque os nossos povos já sabem que tem o gás e muitas vezes podem não compreender as razões de não ter estrada, não ter hospital. É necessário que as SAIs sejam competentes, em primeiro lugar, e, em segundo lugar, que elas sejam íntegras, no sentido de que sejam uma autoridade que dê a última palavra como autoridade. Porque, como sabemos, os políticos vão se atirar os sapatos, como muitas vezes acontece, lançam-se as cadeiras no parlamento para ver quem é o culpado. Mas, na hora, tem que aparecer uma instituição íntegra e competente, com uma voz de autoridade a dizer, não, esperem aí. Nós verificamos, nós auditamos, nós certificamos. Nenhum centavo foi desviado do dinheiro que foi arrecadado. Portanto, as nossas auditorias são importantes também, porque ajudam a incrementar o grau de transparência na utilização dos dinheiros públicos. E nessa perspectiva, cria maior debate. E sabemos que o debate, não só o debate que decorre no parlamento, mas também o debate que decorre na sociedade civil. É uma espécie de exorcização dos espíritos. Depois que decorre o debate, cada um sai de lá a dizer que eles fizeram isso, mas eles hoje me ouviram. E, portanto, eu sou satisfeito porque disse tudo o que tinha a dizer e serena os espíritos, trazendo mais paz aos nossos países. A terminar, eu iria agradecer a todos os intervenientes que nos ajudam todos os dias, sem se cansarem, na preparação da SAI de Moçambique, neste caso, do Tribunal Administrativo. Estou a falar especificamente do Tribunal de Contas da Holanda. Não posso deixar de falar da AFROSAI-E, do seu secretariado dinâmico, porque, na verdade, sem o encorajamento, sem a iniciativa do Tribunal de Contas da Holanda, sem o dinamismo, por conseguinte, da AFROSAI-E, do seu secretariado, os nossos parceiros e congêneres do Quênia e SAI da Tanzânia, que aceitaram também este desafio e trabalharam conosco até ao fim. Muito obrigado em nome da direção do SAI Moçambique, do Tribunal Administrativo, e muito obrigado.
Great. Wow. Judge Councillor Ubisi. I mean, he never disappoints. Thank you so much for giving us that very, very well-seasoned account of the extractive industries in Mozambique. It's a very beautiful industry with a lot of potential, and we do certainly look forward to making sure and seeing the country Mozambique really getting the fruits of having such a wonderful minerals within the country. Now, Judge, at some point when you were articulating, I thought that I was listening to a law report, because you did raise quite a number of legal statutes which are very interesting. Maybe let's talk a little bit of law before you go away. From your perspective, just from a hypothesis, the legal framework in Mozambique, how up to date is it in ensuring that government is going to get a good take from the EI sector? Just from a hypothesis. You tell me, Judge, how is it looking?
Muito obrigado pela pergunta. Evidentemente que perguntar é mais fácil do que responder, mas eu tentarei dizer que daquilo que se tem dito, na verdade, a nossa legislação é das melhores do mundo. Essa tem sido a conclusão dos especialistas, não é minha conclusão. E, portanto, eu também acredito que a nossa legislação não é má, é boa, talvez boa e mais. Temos dificuldades, na verdade, na sua aplicação. Por quê? Porque, primeiro, a começar, as entidades reguladoras, como eu disse, quando se começa, não tem a capacidade de fazer, não conseguem acompanhar a par e passo todo o desenvolvimento. Depois que fizemos a auditoria aos custos recuperáveis e constatamos que o governo, através da entidade reguladora, não estava a se pronunciar perante os custos recuperáveis declarados pelas empresas e que já estava próximo do prazo para prescrição e declaração de efetividade de tais custos, eles declararam que, de facto, não tinham essa capacidade, mas o governo, consciente, depois de todo o debate, incluindo no parlamento, foi disponibilizado dinheiro para se contratar uma empresa estrangeira, e é com satisfação que a AFROSAI de Moçambique pode ver que a auditoria já foi feita e o governo finalmente vai se pronunciar. Portanto, salvamos, digamos, muitos bilhões de dólares que podiam ser dados por efetivos, mas se tivermos sorte, vamos conseguir recuperar alguma coisa. Muito obrigado.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Judge Chancellor. Yes, the issue of the legal framework is something that is always dogging our audits here in Africa. And it's very good to know that one of our peers, Mozambique, has a very good legal framework from where we can benchmark, read against, and really expand and develop ourselves as a people. Now, we want to hear more about the audit. I'm told that Ms. Judith Ali is going to give us something more detailed. Are we still on track to have that?
Sim, senhora. A doutora Judith, eu vou passar a palavra à doutora Judith. A doutora Judith é a nossa especialista da área de auditoria de desempenho, e é com muito prazer que eu apresento a doutora Judith ali. Muito obrigado.
Good morning.
Wow, Judith.
Good morning,
Morning,
everybody.
Judith.
Thank you, Judge Ubis, for presenting me. I am a performance audit manager from the SAI of Mozambique. It's a pleasure for me to be here to share our experience on this parallel audit. I will be presenting in Portuguese from now. E nós temos como nosso título de auditoria os sistemas de governo de Moçambique para monitorar os custos recuperáveis reclamados pelas empresas internacionais de petróleo e gás. Pode ir para o slide seguinte, por favor? O outro a seguir. Como estava a explicar, o título da nossa auditoria, que são os sistemas de governo de Moçambique, para monitorar os custos recuperáveis reclamados pelas empresas de petróleo e gás. Nós tínhamos como nosso objetivo de auditoria avaliar até que ponto esses sistemas existentes do governo de Moçambique estão preparados e são eficientes para monitorar os custos reclamados por essas empresas. Desenvolvemos várias questões, mas neste momento iremos apresentar a questão principal, depois tínhamos várias subquestões, como aconteceu na apresentação da SAI de Quênia. A nossa questão principal tinha que ver até que ponto o Instituto Nacional de Petróleo, que é o regulador, e a autoridade tributária têm sistemas para monitorar os custos reclamados pelas empresas de petróleo e gás, de modo a garantir e proteger as receitas futuras do governo. Podemos passar para o slide seguinte. Sempre em auditoria de desempenho que desenvolvemos as nossas questões, nós temos que apresentar os nossos critérios da auditoria, e os nossos critérios de auditoria estavam relacionados com a existência de sistemas de arquivo, que nós queríamos perceber como é que o regulador e como é que a autoridade tributária estavam organizados para manter um sistema de arquivo que se pudesse encontrar documentos organizados pelo nome de empresas, pelos anos, e depois quais são os procedimentos que eram usados ou que são usados para analisar e fazer uma revisão dos planos de trabalho que as empresas de óleo, de petróleo e gás apresentavam. Quais eram os procedimentos que o regulador, tanto a autoridade tributária, apresentava para gerir e avaliar as atividades dessas empresas de acordo com o que foi assinado nos contratos de partilha e de produção. Podemos passar para o slide seguinte, por favor? Quais foram os métodos de recolha de dados que nós fizemos? Antes, nós solicitamos e fomos ler a legislação moçambicana, tivemos que ler também o contrato, que foi a base do nosso trabalho. Solicitamos todos os planos de atividade, planos de trabalho, orçamentos das empresas de petróleo e gás que existiam dentro do exercício econômico que estávamos a ver. Depois de recolher essa documentação, fizemos entrevistas também desde o topo até a base. Nós fizemos análise desses documentos, fizemos uma triangulação da informação. Nós tínhamos os relatórios de auditoria que são feitos tanto pela empresa privada como pela a auditoria interna do regulador, e fomos avaliando as recomendações, as conclusões, e fomos triangulando com a informação dos outros documentos existentes. E depois de terminar essa parte, aqui irei apresentar as conclusões. Peço para passar para o slide a seguir, por favor. Para as nossas conclusões, organizamos em 3 pontos. Estavam relacionados com mecanismos de monitoria de custos recuperáveis, que é o primeiro ponto, e que nós constatamos que o Instituto Nacional de Petróleo Regulador não possui um sistema de monitoria que seja eficaz para controlar os custos a serem recuperados para as empresas de petróleo e gás. Constatamos também que havia situações em que algumas empresas executavam seu orçamento sem uma autorização a priori do regulador. Constatamos também que não existiam, no momento da nossa auditoria, métodos claros ou procedimentos claros para fazer uma revisão dos planos de trabalho que essas empresas apresentavam e serem apresentadas ao PCA do Instituto Nacional de Petróleo. E vimos também que as 2 instituições auditadas não tinham um sistema de arquivo completo, e que o Instituto Nacional de Petróleo, nos 3 primeiros anos que começou a controlar os custos, não tinha aprovado os custos a serem recuperados. O segundo grupo, no slide a seguir, o segundo grupo, nós fizemos como mecanismos de responsabilização. Para os mecanismos de responsabilização, reportamos que o Ministério dos Recursos Minerais e Energia não possui um sistema de prestação de contas eficaz para acompanhar as atividades do Instituto Nacional de Petróleo, que é regulador, em relação aos custos recuperáveis. O que aconteceu é que, durante a auditoria, constatamos que não houve uma comunicação oficial e resposta do Ministério a dizer que os custos para aqueles anos foram aprovados. Aconteceu é que foi simplesmente uma comunicação a dizer que a auditoria foi feita, foi realizada. Para o terceiro ponto, que organizamos as conclusões principais, que está relacionado com os mecanismos de comunicação entre o regulador e a autoridade tributária, constatamos que estas 2 entidades não têm um sistema eficaz de comunicação que permita fazer uma dedução correta dos impostos na partilha de produção. Com base nessas constatações, nós desenvolvemos as constatações, estão no slide a seguir. Em relação ao Instituto Nacional de Petróleo, as nossas constatações referem que eles devem contestar em tempo útil, que o Instituto Nacional de Petróleo deve ter um sistema de arquivo organizado, a autoridade tributária também deve ter um sistema de arquivo organizado, o Instituto Nacional de Petróleo tem que garantir os orçamentos e as declarações de custos, relatórios de progresso, sejam analisados, revistos, para controlar os custos e evitar que sejam aprovados sem nenhuma contestação. E que a autoridade tributária deve ter um sistema de monitoria eficaz para controlar a dedução fiscal aplicável. Eu termino a minha apresentação por aqui e agradecer mais uma vez a SAI da Holanda, em especial a CUP, a Marique e a Muila, que nos acompanharam nesse projeto desde o início até o fim, e pela experiência que nós ganhamos e aprendemos em relação à auditoria de desempenho baseada em sistemas para avaliar como os nossos governos estão preparados para controlar os custos recuperados. Muito obrigada.
Wow, Dr. Judith, thank you so much for taking us through what you guys did, giving us the conclusions and the recommendations. Quite insightful. I'm also surprised. I haven't seen any questions coming through. The only question that I have is from Sai Vietnam. And that question really is not for you, Dr. Judith, because Chan Pan is asking, are the revenues for oil and gas extraction material with respect to the total national revenue of the three countries carrying out the audit? Look, when we're looking at, I mean, it's been made clear that these countries are still at a very early stage of working with oil and gas. Whilst the revenues might not be as significant as we expect them to be, but we are sure that there's a potential that in the future this revenue is going to be a lot. So based on that, Dr. Judith, thank you so much. We'll let you go. If the questions come later, we'll always call you back and then ask you to respond to them. So we'll move on with our program for today. And the discussion now goes to Tanzania. And from there, we've got the Auditor General of Tanzania, Mr. Edward Chikere. Sir, please, what say you today?
Yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
My name is Charles Kichere, not Kichere. So good. You have to get it right. My name is Charles Kichere, Charles Edward Kichere. Yes,
apologies, Your Excellency.
No, it's okay. It's a confusing name sometimes. Good afternoon from East Africa. Thank you all participants, and I'd like to recognize the presence of I don't know that is still present, the ambassador of Kingdom of the Netherlands to Tanzania, His Excellency Jeroen Vehol, and all other participants. Let me start by giving a background of oil and gas sector in Tanzania. In Tanzania, the natural gas exploration started way back in 1952. The country is among the first, the earliest explorer and producer of the natural gas in the region. The first natural gas discovery was made in 1974 at Songosong Island, and the second discovery at Mnazi Bay, Mtwara, in 1982. Gas production in Tanzania started in the year 2004 and 2006 from the gas fields of Songosongo and Mnazi Bay, respectively. The country has continued to explore gas reserves, and as at February 2017, the discovered gas initially in place, that's GIIP, was estimated at 57.45 trillion cubic feet, of which 10.41 trillion cubic feet are onshore and 47.13 TCF are offshore discoveries. Out of the discovered offshore reserves, 1.169 have been proved with the development activities continuing. In addition to its status as a gas producing country, Tanzania is poised to become a trans country for oil from Uganda. In August 2017, the construction of 1,445 kilometers pipeline that will cost $3.5 billion was commissioned. The pipeline will transport approximately 200,000 barrels of crude oil per day for export to other countries from West Africa. As the ambassador mentioned, Tanzania is also in negotiation with prospective investors on the construction of 2-train offshore LNG terminal at the Congo village in Tanzania, in Lindi, in Tanzania. So we are in the process of negotiation, and we are negotiating with the investors so that they can develop this LNG in southern part of Tanzania, in Lindi region. Having said that, the extractive industry in Tanzania have a significant contribution to the economy. For example, in 2017 and 2018, the share contribution of the extractive industry to gross domestic product, that's GNP, was 4.8% in 2017, equivalent to 2.24 billion US dollars. And in 2018, the contribution to GDP was 5.08%, equivalent to 2.82 billion US dollars. That has been increased from 2017 to 2018, from 4.8 to 5.08 in terms of contribution to the GDP in our country. So Tanzania is endowed with a lot of resources, natural resources, from mining, gas, and we are exploring on oil if we can get it. But we have a lot of natural resources in the country. But now there exists a number of challenges facing the sector. For example, we are asking ourselves, are we comfortable that the government receives all the revenue that they should receive from natural resources? Secondly, is there reliable information showing the natural resource reserves of our country? Also, does the government adequately fulfill its roles in managing and monitoring these resources? This is now where the national audit comes in. As the Supreme Audit Institution need to address these challenges, the mentioned challenges and other challenges, to ensure increased contribution of the sector to the national economy. As a Supreme Audit Institution Tanzania, we have the laws where we are supposed to audit, to carry out various types of audit in the ministries, departments, and agencies, regions, and local authorities for the purpose of establishing the economic efficiency and effectiveness of any other matter considered necessary for the expenditure and the use of resources in these ministries and authorities. So our mandate is auditing. We have to make sure that the government benefits, the people of Tanzania benefits from the natural resources, God-given resources. We have to ensure that we benefit through auditing, through carrying audit on the agreements between ourselves and the investors. That's why we have carried out 2 audits, parallel audits with our counterparts in Kenya and Mozambique. We carried out audit on on gas, on two subjects. The performance audit or report of cost recovery monitoring system in the country. And the second one was performance audit on the management of investment decision processes in natural gas mega projects. That's the audit we carried out to ensure that the government benefits and the people of Tanzania benefits from the resources we have. And my counterpart, my assistant, as Mr. Ziz Dutch, will give more insights on the audit report, the outcomes of audit reports and the lesson learned from that report we carried out. But we have areas for improvement, especially in capacity building. After have gone through the reports, we have gone through the audit, we have some areas where we need for capacity building, especially I'd like to say that this carrying out audit on this extractive industry was the first time we have carried out the audit on extractive industry, because before that, that assignment were being outsourced to firms outside to firms outside the National Audit Office. That is, private firms were carrying out audit for extractive industry. But for the first time, with the support from National Court of Accounts of Audit of the Netherlands, we have carried out the audit on ourselves. So we have some challenges which need to be improved. To improve in terms of capacity. For example, we have challenges on how to audit financial statement to form accurate audit opinion, and this area has special technicalities, for example, measuring mineral deposits, succession of recovery and exemption, and incentives of taxes. So we are having challenges on this area, but also we need to have capacity building on the area of audit of public-private partnership on extractive industry. For example, the audit of majority and minority government shares in the extractive industry. Those are the challenges we experienced during the audit of these two assignments. And in concluding my remarks, I would like to thank the Netherlands Court of Audits and AFROSAI-E for strengthening the already existing good working relationship and cooperation between the government of Tanzania and Netherlands through the National Audit Office of Tanzania and our counterpart, Netherlands Court of Audit, and AFROSAI-E on the other side. On my part, what I have to do is to make sure that all the remaining activities are completed within the agreed time frame, and also come up with a new program that will make sure that extractive industry is strengthened in SAI Tanzania by putting more people, by capacitating our auditors in terms of training, because this extractive industry is a new phenomenon in our country. Despite that, especially in our audit department in SAI, despite the fact that the exploration started many years ago, but to our audit, SAI, this is quite new venture. Therefore, we need to have training on our auditors to make sure that they have the equipment, they have the working tools in order to make sure that the people of Tanzania are benefiting from these God-given resources. Thank you very much for listening. And therefore, I'd like to invite my assistant, Mr. Aziz Dach, to give more insight on the assignment of these two audits we just carried out, which are under under review process. I have them here. We are reviewing it, and no sooner than later, maybe next week, will be published and distributed to the relevant authorities. Thank you very much.
Right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Auditor General. We can hear you loud and clear. We were hearing you loud and clear. You've really mentioned and put it out there for us to understand the landscape of the extractive industries in your country, its history, where you see the vision of your SAI picking up and moving forward towards more transparency and accountability. I especially liked the part where you showed a great appetite to do more, realizing the weaknesses that are within the SAI, which you called challenges, and also putting forward solutions to address some of these matters. Truly, I look forward to also listening to Mr. Aziz and what he has to say today. Thank you so much, AG.
Thank you, Edmond. Thank you.
AG, I'll continue picking up questions from the people. I can see them coming through, but let's have the questions at the end, I'm being told by the producer. So, Mr. Aziz, please Let's hear what you have to say. What did you bump into in those woods of extractive industries in Tanzania?
Hello, good afternoon and good morning, the panelists. And thank you, Edmond. Thank you, CAG, for giving me this opportunity to do the presentation. We started with the audit that we have conducted, the presentation on the parallel audit report of AFROSAI Tanzania. Next slide, please. The country context actually and importance of the audit, we have covered background of oil and gas sector in Tanzania, audit mandate, and importance of extractive industry in audit, and we do concluding the remarks. Next slide, please. The parallel audit of AFROSAI Tanzania, we assess the effectiveness of cost recovery monitoring systems, in which we identify key questions that we have to follow. The first one is we have two entities that we are subject to the audit, and that is the PURA, the Upstream Regulatory Authority, and Tanzania Petroleum Development Corporations. Is that PURA and TPDC. So the effectiveness of systems in place to review and approve the work, programs, and budget and progress report prepared, submitted by the international oil companies. The second question was, again, those two entities, PURA and TRA, have effective systems in place to ensure review of cost claims or tax return from international companies. And the third one is there an effective system in place to communicate and share information on cost recovery? Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yes, the audit criteria, audit questions and the correspondence criteria. The criteria we use is that PURA is required to analyze and disseminating and issuing information relating to petroleum industry, including proposed exploration activity contained in the annual work program, appraisal program, as well as production forecasting and budgeting submitted a license holder. So that is the criteria we use to assess that question. The second one, and the second question is, PURA also is required to ascertain the cost of oil and gas due to license holder and other contractors. International companies are also required to file with the commissioners not later than the 3 months after the end of each year of income, a return of income for the year of that income. The third one, corresponding to the third question, is that PURA and TRA should have a responsibility of coordinating and cooperating with other government institutions. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay. A method for data collection and analysis. We conducted interviews and documentary review. The main method we use for data collection, and that quantitative data we are collected through the interviews. Documents review were analyzed using Excel spreadsheets by organizing and summarizing, compiling them, and using different statistical methods for data computations. The identified methodology were used to respond to audit questions and provide conclusion against audit objectives to obtain appropriate and sufficient information, and enable the audit team to come up with clear findings, which are supported by collaborative evidence to confirm matters that arose and clarification of issues identified during the document review. Next slide, please. Main conclusion. Also, we noted that there is uncertainty in the recovery of a disallowed recoverable cost from the international companies. This is because both TPDC and PURA, which is the audited client, of course, have not established the mechanism to safeguard the disputed recoverable cost against international companies, who are the custodian of the gas sales revenue. On the other hand, basis of presented findings, there is a low information sharing and coordination of cost recovery monitoring. TRA and PURA are not effectively working together on auditing recoverable costs allowed by the both parties. Each party monitors the cost recovery through auditing in isolation, and therefore TRA is not highly effective in cost recovery monitoring as they would if they were worked with the PURA. Furthermore, TATI report does not publish cost recovery information, and there is no other avenue where such information is published. The finding presented in the report endorsed that there are weaknesses on cost recovery monitoring system that would lead to loss of government revenue from petroleum cost recovery. Both PURA and TPDC do not have effective system in place to monitor the recovery of petroleum costs for upstream operations of natural gas. We noted that there are gaps regarding guidance on monitoring of cost recovery and information management, including ineffective data. There is a lack of official guidance on how to submit work program and budgets to be reviewed. There is a lack of standard manner on how to present and submit accounting statements. There is a lack of cost recovery information system. And there is a lack of price gap and benchmarking on the extent and nature of allowable cost recovery expenditure. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. I've already gone through that. Key recommendations. Recommendation to the Petroleum Upstream Regulatory Authority. To ensure that PURA effectively monitor petroleum cost recovery in respect of enhancing revenue collection through profit sharing, the authority should, one, develop guidelines in operations manual which act as a governing document and set standard parameters on the review of work programs and budget. Two, establish a standardized manner by which accounting standards, the accounting statement should be prepared and submission format. Third, develop a cost recovery processing and data storage information system. And fourth, is develop a guideline that establishes a recommended price cap and benchmark for allowable cost recovery expenditure through conducting market research on reasonable extent and magnitude of allowable cost while considering the petroleum industry environment. Recommendation to the Tanzania Petroleum Development. Next slide, please. The recommendation to Tanzania Petroleum Development Corporations. First is to ensure effective collections of profit sharing revenue through cost recovery monitoring. TPDC should first establish mechanisms that will safeguard availability of disputed allowed recovery costs and reduce opportunity loss caused by disputed recoverable costs being held by international company. The measure may include opening up an escrow account for the sum disputed while awaiting resolutions. And a recommendation to the TRA, which is our tax authority, is to enhance the revenue collection through cost recovery monitoring. TRA should establish a formal cooperative agreement, that's memorandum of understanding with PURA, of cost recovery audit information sharing and capacity building on cost recovery monitoring and auditing. And this is our recommendation to the work of the audit that we have conducted. Next slide, please. Next slide. Key recommendations. So those are the key recommendations that we have developed during the audit, and I wish to conclude my presentation here. Thank you very much. To Edmund, please.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dachi. I always enjoy listening to you when you do your presentations, always passionate, and clearly a man who knows the game, how it's played in extractive industries. Your side must be very happy to have you on board.
Thank you.
There's a question that is coming out here. It's on transparency. And the person who sent it decides to be very anonymous as an attendee. And their question is, isn't transparency somewhat difficult in the extractive industry sector? How did you How did that affect you as you carried out your work and your team, Daji?
Thank you, Edmund. Yes, there is still a challenge in terms of transparency. For one, because of the confidentiality clause we find in most of these relationships. As we know, most of these international oil companies work with the entities that we are auditing. For example, PURA and TPDC. Most of the time, they engage the third parties, and they have this contract which has the confidentiality clause. And on top of that, to make what matter worse, sometimes even those partners of the TPDC, they also have a contracts with a third party. It can be a customer. So that network of relationship, each has a confidentiality clause affect the way we do audit. But most of the time, we try to find the way to get the information. Of course, there are challenges once we get as auditors because we have a constitutional mandate and we get those information. But the problem is those sharing. For example, in this parallel audit, we would like to share more information in the platform, but it becomes sometimes difficult to share because as we extend beyond SAIO Tanzania, it becomes really a challenge because of the nature of these closing these contracts that this entity have. So yes, there are challenges, but because we have the mandate, we get this information, but sharing across the platform sometimes is difficult. That's my response. Back to it.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Dachi. Look, your AG has already shown us that he's a man of solutions. And this is an area where we really need to sit down as SAIs and come together and say, how can we break through this barrier of transparency that is really making our work very difficult going forward. Ladies and gentlemen, I do thank you for the questions that are coming, but I've noticed something. Some of your questions are coming really late. Because right now I've got a lot of questions that are meant for the SAI of Mozambique, but unfortunately they are now off the table. Somehow Judith and her gods managed to survive, and now the questions are coming and she's not there. What I do want to ask is for the SAI of Mozambique, and even the SAI of Kenya, to go into the questions log and respond to some of those questions online, because now we've got Tanzania on board. And certainly, I don't think you'll be interested in answering questions for Mozambique and Kenya alike. So please, colleagues from those sides, go for it. But right now, when I'm looking at it, there is no question for Tanzania. Yes, there's no question for Tanzania. And based on that, I'll move on to the next stage of our discussions today. If the questions do come, please, keep them coming. We're not closing it. We're not saying we don't want to talk anymore. But right now, there is nothing for me to pick up. So what I would rather do, let me just quickly discuss the parallel audit outcomes. You've all been sharing Kenya, Mozambique, Tanzania. You've shared what you've been doing. And over and above that, because we've been watching you do it, we've also been having discussions. And from those discussions, we've drawn out what we call some parallel outcomes. These are cross-cutting matters that we're picking up in Kenya, we're picking them up in Mozambique, and we're also picking them up in Tanzania. And when we looked at them, we classified them into 3 clusters. The first one is on communication and collaboration. This is a finding that is cross-cutting, and we're realizing that there is a lack of communication, especially between the regulator and the Ministry of Mining in these countries. And because of that, we're expecting to have a subordination relationship between the regulator and the Ministry of Mines. This is not coming out. They seem to be working in silos. The regulator is going in one direction and the ministry is going in the other direction. And because of that, there's a chasm that is created. If something falls in between their mandates, who's going to pick it up? One might go to the regulator and say, oh, there's this matter that hasn't been addressed, and the regulator says, yeah, that's because the Minister of Mines should be addressing it. And when you go to the Ministry of Mines and say, this matter hasn't been addressed, and they say, yeah, it's because the regulator should do it. So we're seeing that lack of communication and collaboration between those 2 key players within those industries in those countries. And also we noticed that from a communication perspective, the IT systems are not up to speed. And because of that, some information is not coming out as efficient and as effectively as it should. We can easily blame it on transparency, but some of it is simply because our systems are not in order. We also noticed that there's an issue of governance. Who is doing what within those mandates? So we need to make sure that the governance structures are very clear. And one of the things that seems to be coming out from the reports that I looked at and even the discussions that I had is the governance frameworks within these countries' extractive industries is not well defined. In some cases, it's an issue of a legal framework which is not up to speed. And in some cases, it's just an issue of the structures within the institutions that are running the extractive industries for the countries. The last matter that we're noting is the issue of consequence management. After performing such an audit, the most desirable thing is to recover the costs in areas where there's been a misstatement. And the recovery of those costs seems to be a challenge in most countries. And this is a challenge that is also being anticipated through the audits that have been performed. This issue of following up on audit recommendations is an issue that is right at the forefront of the mind of INTERSAI. How can we get the recommendations from the size to Parliament being implemented in a way that results in consequence management? Truth be told, if we do all of these audits and they are not followed up, really we do it in vain. But based on that, we have concluded that we have three cross-cutting issues: communication and collaboration, governance, and consequence management. But we also want to hear from you what you are picking up. And as such, we've got a number of poll questions which we want to throw at you. These are being done anonymous. Respond to them to the best of your abilities and your understanding. Remember, you're not answering them as a SAI, but you're answering them as a person who understands the work of a SAI, and you want to see your SAIs doing better. Let's go for it, guys. All right, welcome back. And the poll results are in. Let's get a reaction from Sabrand Struwik from South Africa. Sabrand, what's your take on these polls? What are you reading into this? You're a seasoned auditor. Hello, Sabrand. He seems to be having a problem. All right, let me check with Caroline Buliani from Malawi.
Edmund, can you hear me, Sabrand?
Now I hear you, my friend. I hear you, Sabrand. Go for it.
Okay, good morning, everybody. All protocols observed for all the delegates on this webinar. Thank you for all the contributions. I find it very, very interesting. Edmund, thank you for hosting. You are excellent host to this webinar as well. Yes, I find the poll results interesting. I think looking at the first question, and I related to the matters that was discussed by the relevant SAIs that were contributing to this parallel audit. I think it is very clear that there is a number of weaknesses that they've identified in these processes that is implemented within their respective countries. So it is very clear that from the sample, if we can call it that, that there is indicators of these weaknesses being possible also in other areas. So, and that read together with our into SAI standard on the relevance of a SAI, I do think that it is very important that we need to pay attention to this type of subject. And the reason for that is because it affects each and every citizen of our country's pockets. If we do not have good systems in our respective countries for controlling costs, the impact of that is that our citizens are being robbed, to put it bluntly, of the resources and the wealth that they are sitting with each of their countries. And for that reason, I think as a SAI, to conform to what SAI 12 requires us to do is to audit what matters and to focus our attention to those things that would really matter to our citizens in the country. So I think the telling part about the second question is that I think we all have realized that this is definitely something that needs to be included in the risk assessment of our audit strategies in each of our SAIs. And I think that is the beauty of this webinar and the exercise that the Court of Netherlands with AFROSAI-E and the participant SAIs has demonstrated to all of us. And I think for that reason, I find this topic to be really very interesting, and I think very telling and topical, especially in the time where we are now, where I think all of us across the world recognizes the fact that what we have as a country, we need to be very grateful for, and we need to manage it in a way that would benefit our citizens. And for that, I think I congratulate you and all the participants with a process that was well managed, well run, and the result also speaks a lot. Thank you, Edmund.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Sabrand. Very good analysis. I mean, Sabrand, he is a senior manager at the Auditor General of South Africa's office. He's the go-to guy when it comes to extractive industries. And thank you for that very good analysis once again. Look, Carol, I know I had asked you, I had asked for you to say something. Maybe can you talk about number 3? Look, it's very close, 46 to 54. How did you vote, and why did you vote like that? Carol Buliani from Malawi.
Wow, thank you very much, Edmund, and thank you very much, everyone who is on the forum. This workshop, this conference has been so insightful. My comments as regards question number 3, indeed it's 50-50, and it shows that mostly the findings that have come out of this audit are not really surprising, considering the fact that it was assessing the preparedness of the countries in terms of the way how they look into the cost of the oil and gas industry. Therefore, looking at the issues of communication, governance, as well as the other third issue, you'd find that these are the most common issues that would arise, especially for the countries that have just begun into working in this industry. And it's one of the most important things that possibly as size would add value in terms of helping governments to come up with better systems to be able to look into the way how communication issues are happening in the industries or the players that are looking into the cost of the oil and gas industries to ensure that our economy is actually improved. That could be my comment in terms of why the respondents came up with a 50-50 vote in terms of whether the results are surprising or not. Thank you very much, Edmund.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Carol, and congratulations on your, was it appointment or elevation, promotion? Yeah, that's the right word. All right.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for participating. We just want to take a break, but as we take a break, I still recognize your questions are coming. I see you, Paulus, Atel, I see you, John Kluver. I see more anonymous people. Raymond, you're sending questions. Matisse, you're all sending questions. Please continue sending them. We are going to respond to them. If we don't respond to them online, we are definitely going to put them on the platform and see how the interlocutors can express themselves against those questions. But as for now, a coffee break is in order, and I think we deserve it. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. See you in 10 minutes, they say only. 10 minutes, they say. All right.
Here we go again. Time is up and I'm calling up my friends. Ain't no wonder why, ain't no wonder I too. Here we go again. Call me up and you wanna be my friend. I'm the one you ride, I'm the one you ride to. If you don't wanna change, ain't no place to hide, ain't no one to run to. If you don't wanna change, I can help you out, 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 I can help you out. Look, if you don't wanna change, ain't no place to hide, ain't no one to run to. If you don't wanna change, I can help you out, 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 I can help you out. I just can't let you go. Lord knows that I've tried to. You said I was the only one. No one likes being lied to. You made this mess and left me with the pieces. Now I wanna burn all the bridges between us. I can't focus, I can't forget. we don't have to repeat it. You made this mess and left me with the pieces. Now I'm gonna burn all the bridges between us. I can't focus, I can't forget. I've been thinking too much lately. I just need to clear my head. crashing down. All around this empty town, I'm searching for the lost and found. But you don't care, you're unaware. Keep moving like the scars aren't even there. It's in the air, like a blazing flare. Just stare, cause the flames will burn us. I thought you were the one for me. That's why I gave you everything. Held you close by the stormy seas. Oh, you meant the world to me. I used to kiss your head when you cried for me. Hold your hand while the pain was over. Keep you warm by the roaring sea. You meant the world to me. Oh, you meant the world to me. Oh, you meant the world to me. My darling dear, you're never here. When I'm in pain, you hide and disappear. Like shadows in the atmosphere, charting the stratosphere. Yeah. I prayed for you and kept you near, in hopes you'd chase away my fears. I'm on my own.
Great. Welcome back. Well-deserved break, well-deserved rest. It's really getting technical up in here, and we must continue. But now we want to hear the views from the Netherlands Court of Audit. And they've been working with us throughout this whole program. And what's their perspective view? Marika and Tim, you mind just taking us through your views? What say you, Gis?
Can you hear me, Edmund?
Now I can hear you. If you said anything before, please retake it.
No, I think we're good then. Right, okay. My name is, I don't see the slide yet up. Yes, thanks. Okay, my name is Gijs Koop. I'm auditor at the Netherlands Court of Audit and happy to run you through the lessons we learned at the Netherlands Court of Audit from the work that we did with together with the colleagues from AFROSAI-E and the colleagues of SAI Kenya, SAI Mozambique, and SAI Tanzania. But before diving into the 4 lessons that we learned, let me introduce you the team from the Netherlands Court of Audit. Next slide, please. Well, this is the team from the NCA and the AFROSAI-E. In the front in the middle, you can see the Vice President of the Netherlands Court of Audit, that's Mr. Ewout Eergang. Right of Mr. Eergang, you see Ms. Mwila Mukanta from SAI Zambia. Left of Mr. Eergang, you see Ms. Marieke Vennevertlo from the Netherlands Court of Audit. She's also here on the screen, at least in my screen, and waving at you, right, Marieke? Okay, and standing on the right, you see Mr. Don Hubert, our resource person from Canada for this project. I'll tell more about his role as a resource person for the project later on. Standing in the middle, you see Miss Marieke Noordhoek. She's project manager at the Netherlands Court of Audit. She works at our international department, and I'm standing on the left. At the NCA, we identified 4 lessons from this partnership, and you can see them on the next slide. The 4 lessons that we learned on conducting a performance audit in the oil and gas sector are these. That the first lesson is that access to information, and it has been mentioned a few times already today, is not an obstacle for SAI audits in oil and gas. I will expand on this in the next slide. Our second lesson is that a system-oriented approach to performance auditing is useful when you want to move from compliance auditing in oil and gas towards performance auditing in oil and gas. Our third lesson is that we can further improve this type of audits by investing more time in identifying and applying audit criteria from good practice. And the fourth and final lesson is that cliches are sometimes true, and which cliche that is, is the cliffhanger in this presentation. You'll know in about 10 minutes or so. Next slide, please. Oh, okay, I hope the noise is not disturbing in the back, or should I close the window? Is that a yes, Marika? Yeah, okay. Just yeah, those are the joys from working from home. As mentioned in the previous slide, our first lesson is that access to information is not an obstacle for audits in the petroleum sector. During the audit design phase, the red column on the left, there were some concerns that SAIs may not get access to contracts that government signed with international oil companies. These signed contracts are in most countries a heavily guarded secret. In addition, there were some concerns on access to other relevant documents, such as the annual work plans of the oil companies, their annual budgets, and the cost recovery statements. During the execution phase, the gray column in the middle, it turned out that these concerns were unfounded. Although it took some time, the teams were able to access all information and documentation as indicated in the middle column with the green tick marks. The confidential and market-sensitive information is part of the audit evidence in the 3 parallel audits. In the audit reports that will be published soon, it was not necessary to make the confidential audit evidence public. And this leads to my conclusion that we as SAIs have great access to confidential information, which we only have to make public in exceptional circumstances. I think this shows that we SAIs are really well positioned to do this type of audit, and we can play a positive role in improving government's oversight in the oil and gas sector. This is basically the same point as the lady from Uganda made, I think about 20 minutes ago. And because of this very good position, I added a golden star to the position of SAI in the yellow box on the slide. Next slide, please. Our second lesson is that a system-oriented approach to performance auditing is useful when you move from compliance audits to performance audits in the petroleum sector. Our system-oriented performance audits really build on financial and compliance audits. And Kenya, Mozambique, and Tanzania all have experience with financial and compliance audits in the petroleum sector. So in case there are offices listening in who want to do a similar audit, we have an observation of what could be the ideal audit team. First of all, we think the ideal audit team has auditors with different professional backgrounds. For instance, a performance auditor, a compliance, and a financial auditor. In addition, ideally, at least one of the team members would have some knowledge of the technicalities of the sector and the organization of and know also the organization of the auditee. We noticed that this knowledge was available with some of the financial and compliance auditors that participated in our corporation. Finally, it's ideal in case the team can make use of a resource person, be it an internal or an external resource person. Financial arrangements between government and the oil and gas company can be complicated. And it's very valuable when you have a resource person who understands oil contracts and is able to answer technical questions. In this project, we benefited a great deal from the expertise from Don Hubert. You saw him in the team picture on the second slide of this presentation. Don is an industry expert from Canada and president from the company Resources for Development. He advised us during the audit design and the audit execution and made very valuable contributions. And it's also, and Don is the person that Daniel referred to earlier on. Daniel from SAI Kenya, I mean. Yeah, my last point on this slide is to highlight where the parallel audits differ from compliance audits. First, the three teams assessed the effectiveness of intergovernment cooperation. The teams assessed whether the tax authority and the petroleum regulator, who both need information on the costs of the international oil companies, make use of each other's information. In case these two government entities share and use each other's information, you can argue that this is effective. In case information on costs is not shared between the two entities, you can say that the government entities are not working together effectively. The fact that the effectiveness was assessed in these audits make that the audits differ from a compliance audit. Secondly, we included audit criteria for contract management from international good practice. This is also something that you do not do in a compliance audit. In a compliance audit, formal audit criteria from laws, policies, rules, and regulations are usually used. And by adding, and in this audit, I mean, we added criteria from good practice, and that makes it different from a compliance audit. I'm now turning to our third lesson, how we can further improve system-oriented performance audits. Next slide, please. Our third lesson is that we can improve system-oriented performance audits by investing more time in identifying and applying good audit criteria from national or international good practice. I mean, having good audit criteria is obviously important when you have relevant, reliable, and objective audit criteria. This helps you to ensure that the findings and conclusions of your audit are accepted by members of parliament and other stakeholders. Identifying suitable audit criteria from good practice is most of the times quite difficult. You almost never find a set of audit criteria that you can directly apply. This means that you have to look for what's available at other institutions in your country, and maybe at other sites, or in academia, or international organizations. Subsequently, you have to adapt these good practices to suit your local circumstances. And in this audit, we identified three sources. One from SAI India, one from SAI UK, and one from the Netherlands Court of Audit. SAI India and SAI UK published guides on contract management, and at the NCIA, we modified our evaluation framework for grant management into an evaluation framework for contract management. For those of you who want to know more about these criteria, you can find the documents in module 4 of the e-learning that we developed. And in red, I indicated where in the e-learning module the documents can be downloaded. Applying audit criteria from good practice in the parallel audit was a challenge. First of all, and I'm saying this with the benefit of hindsight, we should have spent more time at the start of the cooperation to fully understand and customize the audit criteria from these three sources. And secondly, when we discussed applying audit criteria from international good practice with the teams from Mozambique, Tanzania, and Kenya, we noted that the issue came out that they may not be accepted by the auditee. That the auditee may not accept audit criteria that originate from India, the UK, or the Netherlands. And on this last point, I think it's important to realize that it's not necessary for auditees to agree with the audit criteria. In my view, we should use audit criteria from international good practice when we as auditors are convinced that the criteria are relevant, reliable, and objective. And our SAI Guide 3910 on performance auditing is very clear on this. Audit criteria are established by the auditors. We do obviously have to discuss the audit criteria with the auditee, but it's not a precondition that the auditee agrees. Then the next slide, please. Our fourth and final lesson is that cliches are sometimes true. And the cliche is that alone we go fast, together we go far. I mean, the pictures, they basically speak for themselves. I mean, we had very, very good discussions with the teams, and I would, well, we enjoyed the cooperation tremendously. So we had very good discussions. I mean, experiences were exchanged and ideas were shared across countries and across continents. And all of this took time. But by doing this together, I think we can really increase the impact of the work that we do as SAIs. And on that note, I would like to thank you for your attention and give the floor back to Edmund at the AFROSAI-E.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Chris, for taking us through that. Look, there's one issue that keeps resonating in the questions that we're getting from the participants, and that issue is on the abilities of the SAI to perform such complex audits. And I know the Auditor General of Tanzania also alluded to the issue of the need for capacity building within his own institution. But now you have been working with these auditors. What's your take? Are we really that far? Are we capable? What's your take, guys? You worked with them. How far are we as far as capacity building is concerned towards executing more of these very complex and difficult audits?
I mean, first of all, I think you're starting from a very good starting point. I mean, the quality of the auditors is definitely good. I mean, the two issues where I think capacity building may be relevant is that this very specific knowledge that our resource person brought in. I mean, specific industry knowledge is something I'm not sure that you can expect a SAI anywhere in the world to have available. So this reaching out to external expertise, I think, well, you can call that capacity building. And the second issue, I think, is the getting more familiar with audit criteria from international good practice. I think that that's something that came out of just these audits. And it may be, I'm not sure whether that is what I'm saying now is really true for all SAIs everywhere, right? So that was just for these teams that we worked with during the last year and a half or 2 years almost.
Excellent. Great. Let's hear from you, Marika. Do you have anything for us today?
Yes, I do. And I want to add to what Gijs said is learning by doing. You might not know everything right now from the start, but make sure you have your colleagues with you and maybe the support from other SAIs, and you will get there. So together we get far.
All right. Excellent. Together we will go far. Yeah, I do get to understand that there are some capacities within the extractive industries which, by virtue of the nature of a site, can never really have them as in-house all the time. So definitely the issue of collaboration and outsourcing and insourcing of experts becomes the model to go about it in order for us to do these complex audits.
And in addition, Edmund, I think, I mean, if the body of work on this grows, I mean, you get to learn from each other. I mean, and this learning from each other actually only becomes possible if you have a significant amount of work done in the area. So you need to start, get going, and learn to improve. I mean, from one audit to the next. And it can be within a SAI that the next audit is better than the first one, but it can also be across SAIs. I'm pretty sure that a site that would do the exact same audit as the parallel audit will be able to improve. Just because, I mean, they don't have to do the first thinking, but they can do already go into the next step. So.
Excellent, excellent. There's another question that's coming up, which is talking to the design of this program. The question is, how come it hasn't taken SDGs into perspective, or deliberately taken SDGs into perspective? I mean, did you guys think about it? Did this run your mind as you were working on it?
Well, I mean, the honest answer is no. The premises that we started on was on the I mean, the oil and gas sector and the performance audit. That was and then obviously, I mean, you could think, I mean, how the SDGs fit in, but I think that's a step that would make a lot of sense for the next one and to improve on the work that we've done. But yeah, no, I mean, we haven't done it, and to be honest, I mean, I would find it difficult to make the link right now here on the spot.
Yeah, and if I may add, one of the key points of our training and of our collaboration was to focus on a certain topic. So yes, of course, the SDGs crossed our mind, but we decided to focus on one aspect of the oil and gas industry. So it might be an interesting topic for our next audit.
Excellent. All right, thank you so much. SDGs, very interesting topic, but not for this day, maybe for tomorrow as we continue doing these audits. And we do have an opportunity to continue doing these audits as we build capacity. Now, we just want to give time to the SAIs and hear what they learned from their own perspective. And Millicent from Kenya, if you could then come in and let us know what you learned. We're also going to give a chance to Celsia from Mozambique and also Irene from Tanzania to come and share their lessons learned. And thank you so much to the Netherlands Court of Auditors for telling us what they learned. Quite a lot. Is Millicent online?
Yes.
Go for it, Millicent. Finally, we get to hear you, man.
Yes. Thank you so much, Edmond. And thank you for giving me this opportunity to share the lessons we learned from this project at AFROSAI Kenya. So I'll go straight to the lessons we learned. First, in conducting performance audit in the oil and gas sector, then the lessons we learned in conducting a parallel audit, and then our way forward as a country. So in conducting a performance audit in the oil and gas sector, we learned 3 key lessons. The first being that oil and gas is a highly specialized sector, and for AFROSAI to be able to effectively conduct performance audit in this sector, then there is need for capacity building of its staff to be able to undertake the work effectively. And this can be in the area of establishing specialized units for extractive industries, developing guiding manuals, and also constant training of staff. The second lesson is in the area of access to information arising from confidentiality clauses in the contracts. As you've heard from the previous presenters, oil and gas is conducted in a way that the government enters into contract with private oil companies through production sharing agreements. And these contracts have confidentiality clauses. And so some of the information is treated as highly confidential. And for that, at times, gathering evidence around such issues become difficult for auditors. Even though we were able to get all the information we wanted for the audit, it wasn't easy because at first, the audit entity was a bit reluctant to give us the information, but then we had to sign a confidentiality declaration before we could be given the information. And then the last lesson is in the area of limitation of mandates. As I've mentioned earlier, the operators in the oil and gas sector are private companies for which our SAI does not have a direct mandate to audit. So this can also pose a limitation of scope to our audit. For instance, we did an audit on monitoring of cost, but it was to the extent of the preparedness of the State Department to monitor cost. If we were to now audit the costs incurred by the oil companies directly, we might have encountered a limitation of scope because we cannot directly audit the oil companies, but we can only audit them through the government entity. Next slide, please. And now, in conducting parallel audits, we learned 4 key lessons. And the first one is in the area of consensus building challenges. Parallel audits bring together different countries that conduct similar audits guided by similar objectives and audit questions. But to come up with common grounds for the audit, sometimes the consensus building might drag for long given the county setups and interest. I remember earlier when Daniel did our presentation and somebody raised a concern on why the cost and not sustainability audits. So if you have countries that their interest is in sustainability of the sector, not the cost. So consensus might drag for long before you decide, let's go this direction and not the other one. Then the next lesson is, which is on a positive note, is the possibility of comparing countries' level of performance. Using similar objective and audit questions allows for comparative analysis of the findings and conclusions. And through that, the participating SAIs are able to compare their performance amongst themselves. And another positive aspect of parallel audit is in capacity enhancement. Given that there are different SAIs involved, there is the advantage of knowledge sharing amongst auditors, and therefore it provides good ground for capacity building for staff. And the last lesson learned in parallel audit is in regional partnerships. Conducting parallel audits, through parallel audits, participating countries can propose partnership solutions to common problems. For instance, arising from the parallel audit, if the participating countries realize that there is a problem that affects all of them, then they can propose a partnership solution that now brings together the governments of the countries to come up with a common solution. Next slide. And now our way forward as SAI Kenya, the first is enhancing the capacity of the extractive industry team to include multidisciplinary of performance and financial auditors. Currently, we have a team that is responsible for extractive industry sector, but it's comprised of only financial auditors. So going forward, as a SAI, we will explore the possibility of enhancing this team to also consist of performance auditors. The next is, our way forward is to conduct more audits in the extractive industry sector. This being an emerging sector, our SAI has not done much in this area. So far, we have done 2 audits that have been published and now the current 2 that are under review. But going forward, we endeavor to do more performance audits in this sector. And the last is capacity building to train staff so that they have the relevant skills required to effectively audit this sector. Next slide. And now our proposed way forward for the other stakeholders involved in the sector. AFROSAI-E should consider developing a comprehensive training program for auditors in the extractive industry sector. Maybe something akin to the 3-module performance audit course that would capacity build auditors in this sector. Then we also propose that the WGI capacity to be expanded to offer more specialized training in the extractive industry sector. And we also feel that there is need for conducting more parallel audits in this sector to allow for knowledge sharing amongst countries in the AFROSAI-E region and also capacity building of the staff. And the last is in the area of maybe countries should consider exchange programs within the region so that there is room for sharing of skills. And with that, I'll end my presentation there. And before I end, I would like to thank the AFROSAI-E and the Netherlands Court of Audit for coming up with this wonderful program. It has been more than 1 year of learning and experience and knowledge sharing amongst us auditors, and we've learned quite a lot. Personally, this was my first audit in the oil and gas sector, and I feel like I've learned a lot in this sector, and going forward, my next audit will be better than this first one. Thank you so much. And thank you all for listening.
Oh my, oh my. Thank you so much, Millicent. And she even leaves by making a pledge to do better next time and every time, I suppose. That was very wonderful. And thank you for answering a question which had already been raised. There is a colleague who had typed a question to say, you guys, you keep saying you did a parallel audit. How is it parallel when you ended up with different topics that you were going for? And it's very good that you answered it, that it's a parallel audit, not an identical audit. And that is very well placed. Please don't go very far away. The questions that I'm also getting seem to be cross-cutting. So we really need all of you, the 3 of you, to be in this panel when you answer these questions that are now coming. So please give us a chance to listen to Celsia from Mozambique. And let's hear what she has to say about what they learned as an institution. Thank you, Celsia. With the help of Ali, of course. Ali, you've been amazing today once again. Hey? You always do a great job on translation.
Muito boa tarde. Obrigada, Edmundo. Eu sou Célcia da Mota, representante da auditora em representação da AFROSAI de Moçambique. Eu vou falar das lições aprendidas sobre a auditoria paralela. Dizer que durante a auditoria paralela nós tivemos conhecimentos sobre a auditoria de desempenho orientada para sistemas. Também podemos aprender métodos de procedimentos para descrever no relatório de modo a facilitar a percepção do leitor. Estes métodos tem como citar, a título de exemplo, falamos dos infográficos, os sistemas ideais para monitoria dos custos recuperáveis e o método de coleta de dados. Também tivemos conhecimentos tais como a revisão dos regulamentos da indústria extrativa, Temos também conhecimentos sobre a importância da monitoria dos custos recuperáveis, com vista a salvaguardar os interesses de cada país. Tivemos também conhecimentos sobre os tipos de contratos e também podemos aprender o que são custos recuperáveis. O próximo slide. Tivemos experiências também com outros diversos países na área da indústria extrativa. Podemos também poder ter contato com diferentes línguas, diferentes metodologias. Também podemos ter conhecimentos na área de petróleo e gás, compreendendo os diversos mandatos. Próximo slide. Em termos de caminhos que nós podemos seguir para frente com este tipo de auditorias, né? E iria dizer que as fases da auditoria para monitorar esse tipo de auditoria, para fazer uma monitoria, dizia, para fazer uma monitoria, esse tipo de auditoria, seria essencial acompanhar as recomendações deixadas pelos auditores e as ações a serem levadas a cabo pelas entidades, contribuindo para o alcance dos resultados desejados. Também devemos garantir que os auditores do TA realizem cursos online e é importante também que no plano estratégico da nossa SAI deve incluir a descrição do número de auditores da indústria extrativas que serão levados a cabo por ano. Tenho aqui, de seguida, posso passar para o próximo slide. Tenho aqui outras ações dos parceiros que devemos seguir, né? Quanto à monitoria da cooperação, esta deve ser realizada, no caso de Moçambique, né? Sendo um país de língua falante, de língua portuguesa, necessitaria de ter um tradutor. Por outro lado, esta cooperação poderia também abranger países de outros continentes com experiências em auditoria no setor da indústria e gás. Então, desta forma, termino aqui a minha apresentação e quero agradecer à AFROSAI, ao NCA e em especial ao Tribunal Administrativo de Moçambique por ter permitido que eu pudesse participar desta auditoria, pois conseguimos obter vários conhecimentos na auditoria de desempenho, baseada em sistemas, as formas de organização das próprias constatações e também pelo apoio prestado em todas as fases desta auditoria. Muito obrigada.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Celsia. It's very clear. Learning. That is what has been going on. Yes, there are challenges, but still that has not deterred the auditors to want to learn and do more as far as the SAI mandate is concerned. And like I mentioned to Millicent, please don't go away. We've got some cross-cutting questions. Let's listen to Irene Maro from Tanzania. Let's hear what she has to say before we go into the collective and answer questions.
Hello. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon to you.
This is Irene from Tanzania. I'm here to present the lesson learned from the parallel audit which we conducted. Can I have the next slide, please? The lesson which we have learned from the audit which we have conducted, it has helped us in the capacity building, taking into consideration that this was the first audit which we have performed in the performance audit in the oil and gas. From this parallel audit, it has enhanced us into improving our capacity, especially in this area. And also another thing which we have learned from the parallel audit which we have conducted, since for AFROSAI Tanzania, it has been, we have not conducted so many performance audits. So the challenge which we have got from conducting the parallel for the performance audit to our clients. Most of our clients were not so aware of the performance audit. They're so much into financial audit. So through this, it has helped them to give them awareness on what the performance audit is with respect to the oil and gas. This is another thing which we have learned from the audit, the parallel audit which we have conducted. Next slide, please. Another thing which I've learned from this audit, this parallel audit which we've conducted, first, we appreciate that the SAIs have been working to different cultures. Each SAI has its own culture, and from that, since we are having different cultures, it has enabled us, despite having the differences, but we've managed to come to the same conclusion through passing the same audit methodology, the same criteria, but we have managed to reach into the conclusion which add more to what we've been conducting. It means despite the differences, but in the cultures. Another thing which we have learned from the conducting parallel audit is that a need to improve the cooperation during audit execution. We've learned that the parallel audit team have a challenge of sharing information during the audit execution. Once the team agree on the design, we would appreciate that for the next audit which we'll conduct, maybe the sharing of the information could be more fluent, more efficient for everyone to be able to go through them, so that to minimize the obstacles which we've been facing during the conducting of the audit. This is another challenge this is another lesson which I've learned from the conducting of this audit. Can you go to the next slide, please? Hello, Edmund. Okay. Another way forward from the challenges which we have faced, or from the lessons which we have learned, AFROSAI Tanzania, we have come out with the extractive industry strategic plan, but this plan is still in the finalization stage. So from this strategic plan, the office, from this strategic plan, which we are still in the finalization phase, we have decided that to mention what can I say? From the extractive industry strategic plan, we have managed to make a strategic plan which will enhance the performance of extractive industry within it. Then from this plan, we've also managed to make an operation plan which will be annually. And we have planned that for each year to be able to conduct one performance audit in the oil and gas. So by doing this, it will, and from the knowledge which we've got from the parallel audit which we've conducted, it will help us to have to be more efficient in whatever we are doing. So we have come out with the extractive industries plan, and also we have managed to make an annual operation plan where we will incorporate the performance audit in these two assignments, in these two documents. Another slide, please. Another thing, way forward to the stakeholders, maybe can create a forum or mechanism for SAIs to initiate corporate audit, especially for those SAIs which we share the common interest, like for SAI Tanzania, SAI Uganda, since we all share the construction of pipeline. If we can come out with a parallel audit where we can do one audit in this aspect, it will really help what can I say? It will really help us it will help us in capacitate us in making a better outcome from the audit. So the way forward is for two of us or for any side which have the common goals to have the common audit on the same aspect. And another thing which is a way forward, if we could have an online information sharing and learning where every site can get the information through the online and to get e-learning opportunities through it. And I think this will help as a way forward to tackle all the challenges which we have faced during the parallel audit. I think I'm at this the end of my presentation, but I would like to thank my colleagues in the site Tanzania, especially my CIG, for giving me this opportunity to participate in this audit. And also I would like to thank the AFROSAI-E and Netherlands Court of Audit for giving this opportunity to participate in this audit. And I'm looking forward to do more as a country, with my colleague and with other sides, working to increase the cooperation among us and to do better in the coming audit. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Irene. What you guys did in the form of these audits is not easy. It's very complex, and the environment within which you had to do it in doesn't make it any easier. And the fact that you came out with these outcomes from an audit perspective and also from an experience learning perspective is really encouraging. Now, I'm learning from SAI Tanzania that when you want to get into this game of extractive industries, you need to be organized. You have to have a strategy in place. You have to have a plan in place. And you have to consistently follow through with the strategy as it marries with the plan. That's the only way that you can get through this. Extractive industries is not something that you just wake up and you say, oh, what did my ancestors send me in my dreams last night? Something that you really need to plan and go forward with. And that's the only way we can be successful. Thank you so much, Irene. Now, please, producer, can we have all three of them from a video perspective? We want to see all three of them so that they can answer these three questions that are coming for them. The first question is on your use of other information that is available as in the public space. And the person who raised it, Paulus, he says, did you guys put to consideration EITI? That's number one. And question number two is on value chain. How can the work of the SAI be deliberately designed to improve the value chain within the extractive industries? And lastly, what experts did you use in the audits that you performed? We keep hearing that it's difficult. You need to have industry experts and so forth. Which ones did you use? Whilst you think about that, there's a statement that has come through on the chat line, and this statement is going through to the side of Gambia. Baba, I know you are online. I saw you earlier. The statement there is that the Gambia is at a very early stage of... Are you there, Baba?
Desculpa, Edmund, não consegui perceber a terceira questão. Pode repetir, se faz favor?
Oh, the third question was on the use of experts. We keep hearing that, oh, this extractive industries is so difficult. We need to have experts to help us do it. Which experts did you use in order to do the audits that you did? Did you use any? I was just talking to Baba, and I was saying, Baba, in the Gambia, they really want you guys to start doing more audits in this area. Please take note and respond to the stakeholder expectation there. The Gambia must do more audits in the extractive industries. That's what they're asking for. But anyway, let's go back to you, ladies. Who wants to start us off? Irene?
I'd like to start with the third one, but I'm not sure if I got you right. Did you ask about the expansion or the expertise?
The experts, these industry gurus, those who know that we probably don't know.
what basically we did not go direct to the expertise, but we use the performance auditors which are in our firm, in our auditing, the CIG office. They have helped us a lot in perfectionist our report. So that's the only expert we have used. But for the report which you'll be getting it, you read it and you'll see what you have done, and you'll appreciate the work of the performance auditor within our office, which have helped us, despite the fact that this is the first audit as an extractive auditor. And the second question which you ask about the value chain, what exactly did you ask about it?
They want to know how can the SAI really improve the value chain, make it work better for the industry.
If you are referring to the parallel audit, I think what the SAI can do, I think what the SAI can do to us, or the AFROSAI-E, is just to give us more knowledge, to train us more, so that we may be able to go through all the process from the beginning to the end. If we manage to do the performance audit in each stage, means it will help us to have the more better report, which will be more beneficial to the country and also to us in general. I think that is what it can do. And the first one question was about? Can you tell me the first question first?
Wow, now I've even forgotten it. Can someone remind me? I'm now getting confused.
I got this two only.
Oh yeah, the one on EITI. Did you refer, to what extent did you use the work of other external institutions?
Okay. We did not use that much of the external auditing. What we use is what we got from the client which have been auditing, and the knowledge which we got from the other, our performance auditor, but we did not the expert. We do not use any expert in this.
Excellent. And you still produced a great report. That's wonderful. Well done. Millicent, what say you to those three questions? I hope you don't ask me to repeat them again. She's muted. You're so muted right now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now, let me start with the third one. On the use of experts, we did not really use experts in these audits, other than when we were starting the project. The Netherlands Court of Audit brought in a resource person who took us through oil and gas sector at a global perspective and also African perspective. Then at the SAI level, we also got much information from our financial auditors who have been working in this sector for quite some time, and they helped us understand the sector well, and now from there we were able to do performance audit in the sector. Then in the value chain, what can be done to improve the value chain? I believe as SAIs, what we need to do is undertake a risk assessment in the value chain, identify the problematic areas of the value chain, and conduct audits in those areas. With that, our recommendations would help the government improve the value chain. And there's also need for capacity building of the auditors to be able to conduct audits at every stage of the value chain. Then in the EITI, there was a question on the EITI. We did not really make reference to it as much in these audits, but maybe going forward in the next audits, we will give it reference. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Millicent. What say you, Celsia, to those three questions? Are you guys still online, Mozambique? There she is.
Okay. Sim, irei começar por responder a questão número 3 e dizer que nós usamos especialistas, tivemos a ajuda de um especialista que foi o Don, que ele esteve a trabalhar conosco, esteve cá em Moçambique, que era para fazer trouxe-nos algumas experiências, e isso ajudou-nos muito no nosso trabalho. Sim, dê-nos também alguns relatórios que nós podemos ler também, e ajudou-nos muito também na elaboração da nossa auditoria. Sim, sim, sim.
Excellent.
Então,
Wonderful.
Então, talvez aqui só para corrigir, que nós, a ajuda que o Don fez foi em termos de, nós lemos os relatórios que ele fez sobre este tipo de auditorias, e isso ajudou-nos bastante também no nosso trabalho. Quanto à segunda questão, e dizer que foi uma auditoria, como tratando-se de uma auditoria baseada no sistema, a nossa cadeia de valores contou com a ajuda do regulador, neste caso do INP, da autoridade tributária, dos parceiros e também da comunidade, da sociedade, neste caso. Sim, sim.
Wow. Thank you so much. Managed
Sim,
to do
também
this.
desculpa, estamos aqui com problemas do sinal, e ia dizer que nesta cadeia de valores foi envolvida desde a fase de pesquisa, de desenvolvimento e a fase de produção. Nós contamos com a ajuda de todos estes stakeholders. É tudo. Sim. Sim. E quando tens a primeira questão, ia dizer que para fazer aquela transparência não faz parte da nossa auditoria. Sim. Sim. Isto porque durante a nossa auditoria, né, nós encontramos lá essa informação, e toda a informação deve ser pública, né? Então, este princípio de transparência não é aqui muito aplicado, é implícito, sim. Tá bem, é tudo.
Wow. Excellent. Excellent. There you have it. All three sides. It's clear they didn't use the EITI. It's also apparent that the need for expertise wasn't as heavy as one would suspect it is. And with the help of the great Don Hubert, we were able to finish our audits. Look, I've met Don, he's an excellent guy. He's written quite a number of documents also in extractive industries. He's one of the leading guys in Africa, and whenever AFROSAI is working with Don Hubert, you definitely know that they're in safe hands, and that's just wonderful to have. And the way that we're going to address the value chain is through knowledge, more knowledge. And already, Irene, you did mention that we need knowledge in the form of e-learning. AFROSAI-E, together with the Netherlands Court of Audit, have been working on e-learning, and we do have e-learning that we want to share. Just to remind those who are not aware of it, or those who have tried it before, that something like this does exist, and you can always tap into our AFROSAI-E networks and get this information. Arm yourself adequately as a SAI, and do the great work that you guys continue to do. Ladies, thank you so much for leading your audit teams. Once again, what you did was not easy, although you make it sound easy. May we please have the e-learning being played so that our colleagues can understand what we mean. Right, www.AFROSAI-E-learning.com. That's where you should go. There's more where that came from. So what's the way forward, folks? We've been together since morning. We've been listening and sharing experiences. You've been putting your questions through the systems. We've tried to answer as many as we can. And the more difficult ones, we're going to find time to sit down and really think about it and respond to you nonetheless. So all questions will be responded to. But what's the way forward? I think the way forward should come from you. And in order for us to get the way forward, let's run a quick poll, right? Let's run a quick poll and see how you guys respond to such.
All I can do is take the shame. Oh, do we say goodbye? Refuse to question why. I'm too sad to say I'm sorry. So lie and pretend that you're okay. Swear that you will stay. Keep trying for one day. Whoa, I'm sick of all these lies. Don't care if I capsize. There's nothing left for me to hide. Don't wanna live a lie. Too many lows, too many highs. Too many things to criticize. So I leave it all behind. Don't wanna live a lie. I'm sick of all these lies. Don't care if I capsize. Oh no. Empty hearts and neon lights. They're playing with my mind. Gotta get out of here tonight. Oh, I wanna run off and fly. And I'll tell myself it's fine to be alone. Just to find somewhere that finally feels like home. Oh, oh, oh. I hate all this overthinking. Oh, 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 oh.
Oh my, the results are in, and they are quite interesting. Lakson from Zimbabwe, what say you about these results as a way of trying to etch out the way forward? Lakson, are you online already? Okay. Lakson is not online. Just, please, Josie, what do you say about this? I know that.
Thank you, Edmond. And also, I would like to say thank you to everyone for such an excellent webinar workshop on this. And so here the poll is about 2 questions. Is there value in SAI's performing collaborative audits? It's almost 100%. And to what extent do you think SAI should perform audits of monitoring costs? It's really 82%, which is almost 100%. To me, Edmond, it goes back to the beginning. When Macy was talking, when the Netherlands Court of Audit was talking, it goes to the why. Why are we even going to find the oil in the ground? Why? Because we want to get benefit from it. We want to get revenue, which is going to, to our citizens. So if we do not monitor the cost, because most of these, they are production sharing agreements, and what it means is if the company which is actually drilling this oil uses, gets a revenue for $100 and uses $100 to get that revenue, the government is getting nothing. They get nothing.
True.
So if we do not monitor the costs, then why are we getting that oil from the ground in the first place? Because everything will just go into cost. So that's my short answer to that. And maybe I can go back to the other poll where people were saying, you know, the results were not really surprising, because we know that these things are happening. We talk about them, they're in the papers and so forth. So why should you bother SSI? And I would like to say that it's very important that the SAI goes into this, because when the SAI does these audits, the audits are evidence-based, and you are actually able to tell your country that we have lost so much because we didn't monitor the cost. But if it's just something which everyone is talking about, then it hasn't helped anyone. Thank you, Edmond.
Wow, wow, wow. Thank you so much, Josephine. She's always profound in her approach, isn't she? That's a huge eye-opener for all of us, eh? Why are we doing this in the first place? If it is of no benefit, why are we going on and on and on, tilling the land, destroying beautiful Mother Earth for no real return? But let's make it count. Let's make it work for everybody. And through transparency and accountability, things will work. And I'd like to thank you so much for being with me today. It was a pleasure listening to all of you, your contributions, your interest and the passion in this industry. And for sure, unless you have a passion for this industry, you really do not and cannot stick around. And two people that have stuck around with us throughout the day today are the CEO of AFROSAI-E and the Vice President of the NCA. If that is a sign of passion, then we'd like to give them a chance to give their closing remarks and set us off for the day, tomorrow, and the future in extractive industries. And for me, Edmond Shoko, it's been a pleasure being your host today. Good day.
Ladies and gentlemen, what an exciting day, and during exciting times. As mentioned, together we will conquer. Let's learn from each other and improve, and help each other improve. Edmond, thank you for the lovely day. You've been awesome, as always. Thank you. I cannot overemphasize the importance of the production cost audits. Josie just mentioned why we are doing it, or asked us why we are doing it. These costs are an important feature to ensure that revenues from extractive industries are not absorbed by these costs and reaching private companies, both locally and internationally. And that's exactly what Josie said. If the costs are 100% of what is being pulled out of the soil, why do we do it? And when the revenues are intended to improve the lives of the citizens in a specific country, as Seybrand said, why rob the citizens? Let's not rob the citizens. It's been so exciting, and I had the privilege to sit in the background, and I did a connection check in terms of the project and also in terms of the day that we have spent today. And I'll just go through the categories of the connection check that I did. I checked the integrity of the project. Did the teams do their best? Did Edmond do his best? Did people operating in the background of all of this do their best? And I'm convinced that everybody did. NCA played their part. The government of Netherlands played their part. And based on the presentations from the SAI on outcomes, questions that you asked, inputs that you gave, and responses thereto, I'm convinced that this project was done with all the integrity it deserves. In terms of expectations, did we please our sponsor? Who are our sponsors? The government of Netherlands? And if the sponsor was not pleased, I believe they would not have sponsored this event today. Because as Edmund would say, the event today was to showcase the value that came out of the audits. And I believe we have met the expectations of the sponsor, and that's why they are here with us. That's why they sponsored in the first place. They knew that we would meet the expectations. In terms of relevance, did we understand and relate to the audience? Your participation as the audience gives me clear indication that the teams connected with you and they related quite well with you. In terms of value, did we add value to the people? Were we able to reward reward you for the time that you are here? I believe that the information that you gained today in terms of what was shared rewarded your time, was value for money. And I believe that the time that the team spent on the audits was value for money. You've heard all about it. I don't have to say it. In terms of application, did the team give you the game plan? The SAIs all agree that there is room for improvement. They shared openly and honestly, I believe, and also shared their plans going forward. And I believe that they did that. Did they make a difference in terms of change? In AFROSAI-E, we will continue to measure this in the future and keep reporting on it, especially because the outcomes in this area are set in our strategic plan. So we definitely will keep you informed. And I would like to close by emphasizing that what I said during the opening. Collaboration is key both at country level and internationally for best results and improvement at all levels. SAI shared benefits of these parallel audits, and I was glad to hear invitations from other SAIs to join efforts in the future audits. And I trust and hope that AFROSAI-E community will respond to this call. Consistency in performing extractive industry audits, improving in this area, building capacity both in size and influence in building capacity within governments and following up on government's implementation of audit recommendations. That's very important. And we must be deliberate and purposeful in measuring value and benefits, one, to citizens and governments to improve in this area. Value to citizens and value to governments to improve in this area. And two, to SAI staff as they become experts in this area and deliver more through the value of their audits. Thanks to NCA once again. It was a pleasure working with you and knowing you both, Yvonne and Marika. I hope that we will be able to work again in the future projects. I would like to thank the government of Netherlands once again, the experts from across the continent, and in the countries, in the 3 countries where the teams needed collaboration with people within their countries. I would like to wish you all well and look forward to more collaborations in the future. I hand over to you, Yvonne. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maxi. Thank you. It's a pleasure, always a pleasure working with you. And let me also thank, I totally agree with you that Edmund did a great job not only very skillful presentation, but also, I would say, with flair, moderating this excellent webinar. And of course, everybody who joined this event, and there were, I think, over 150 people joining at the same time, over 250 registrations, really from all over the world. So it was not really an African event. It was not an African European event. It was truly a global event. And as I'm speaking now, I see all the thank you notes and all the compliments for that it was a useful webinar coming in. So I think that is really a show of success. Of course, I would like to thank AFROSAI-E, everybody at AFROSAI-E, specifically for organizing this conference, but also my special thanks to the AGs of Kenya and Tanzania and the Judge Counselor, Mr. Ubise from Mozambique, our strategic partners in this regional cooperation. I think we had a good closing conference, but as the Netherlands Court of Audit, we are committed to continue working together with AFROSAI-E, supporting each other and other Supreme Audit institutions in the region, where we can make a difference. And that's what it's all about. That is where we are here. We know that there are problems. That's why we are auditing. We don't audit because we know everything is okay. We audit to highlight problems so that governments can address them. So in the end, that citizens can really benefit from national regions. And I hope also that this event and the work done by our colleagues from Mozambique, from Kenya, from Tanzania, can inspire other Supreme Audit institutions to undertake similar work. And of course, this global pandemic makes that we cannot join physically. We are separated physically, but I think that we are together today, not only in this online conference, this very successful online conference, but also in spirit, the spirit of Supreme Audit institutions, to contribute to making sure that citizens can really benefit from natural resources. I'm not completely sure if I need to officially close this conference, but in case I do, let me stop by saying this conference is officially closed. Thank you all.
Send rocks across the pavement, hoping it'll cave and swallow me whole. Wonder why my mind keeps on spinning. I like this. Something's always amiss. Can't put my finger on it, but it's there. Wait for it to subside, but my mind won't apply. Waiting for the clear. Is it bad? Sometimes I like it when I lose control. There's something in it that's so pure.